I was introduced to the killing game. You give me a pistol, you give me a rifle, and you give me a group of men, and I'll do my job. If you slip and the government gets you, they'll deliver you to the rivals. They stripped every piece of clothing that I had, and they tied me up with bands from the back and from my feet. This guy grabs a bag, and he puts water in it, and he puts bleach in it, and he puts it over my head, and he starts torturing me.
Ali Gonzalez has the wildest story I've heard since I started doing this podcast. He's originally from a small village in rural Mexico, but he grew up in Southern California, where his family migrated to when he was just a little kid. But then at age 16, after his parents' divorce, he decided to move back to Mexico, where he was quickly recruited into the armed wing of the Sinaloa cartel. For the next 10 years, he worked as a high-level hitman for multiple cartels in different regions throughout Mexico. Ali reveals what life is like working for the most dangerous criminal organizations in the entire world, from how they're structured and funded to the way they take over new territory. Nobody has ever given us such detailed, insider knowledge about the vast workings of Mexican cartels the way Ali has. The news and the podcast can all speculate about it, but Ali has lived it. And for more unbelievable content with Ali, including how he escaped the cartel, found Islam, and ended up living in England, go over to patreon.com/theconnectshow. This is an all-time great episode. Get ready for it. Ali Gonzalez, right here on The Connect with Johnny Mitchell.
Whoever can inflict more violence and commit more heinous acts is basically the one that's going to dominate that area. They're not going to bribe you. They're going to put fear into you and say, if you don't pay us, we're going to kill you. They want to see if that person has the ability to pull the trigger. There's organizations that will literally dismember you if you kill someone that they don't give the order to.
That's when I see the lights behind me start to flash. And I didn't even think, I just hit it. I was driving like my life depended on it. And then I parked the car, hopped out, closed the door, and I started running.
And he pulls out a burner, a shank, it's like 6 inches. And then he passes it to me. And he goes, here, that's yours. Don't ever leave the cell block without this. He was the reason I made it out of that place alive.
Well, why do you think that is, though? Like, why are different? What is confrontations with the military, like you see on the East Coast of Mexico? What does that have to do with Pancho Villa and the culture, the history of that area?
The people are arrieros, you know, they're braveros. They don't fear anything. They don't fear death, you know. They have that in their blood. Like their blood boils to get into gunfights. I can say the same thing about the South with Zapatistas. My grandma is from a town called Anenecuilco. If you know about Emiliano Zapata, he's from Anenecuilco. They're descendants from Tlahuicas. They belong to the Aztec Empire. So we got that warrior blood in our in running through our veins, and it inspires you to get down. You know, when it's the moment of the moment that you have to get down.
Yeah,
but you have to be smart. You know.
Do you think the indigenous culture is more influential in these cartels in the South and in the East, rather than a place like Sinaloa where they're white skinned and they fancy themselves to be more elite and educated and these high level drug traffickers? We're not criminals.
Yeah.
Do you think that has a lot part to play with
when you're talking about
cartel violence?
When you're talking about the military branch of the cartel, because like you just said, Sinaloa is known for their trafficking, making good money, but they also need good soldiers, good military branch that's going to defend their line, defend their territory. Chihuahua and Sonora, Pancho Villa ran all through that area, so I think it's more about like, yeah, they are the high class regarding drug trafficking, but when in regards to fighting, they're always going to look towards the rural areas where there's more indigenous influence from older generations that have fought against the Mexican government in their moment.
And they're going to use you guys as the soldiers too.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's be honest, right? There's a big class difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, like me personally, I've never dealt with drugs.
Yeah. I
don't want to deal with drugs.
Yeah.
You give me a pistol, you give me a rifle, and you give me a group of men, and I'll do my job. Because that's what I prefer. You know, It's never been in my likes to want to make more money or want to send drugs to a different location. Like that's not my business. So a lot of their elite fighters have that mentality. They're not looking to do what their bosses are doing.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking to make a name for themselves in regards with violence against other cartels.
I imagine that you could be a cartel soldier, a sicario, and never meet the people that you are fighting for.
No, 100%.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Like how a privateer, somebody in the infantry of the army who's first in, is never going to meet the president who decides to go to war, right?
Yeah, most of them don't meet him. And they know, they accept it and they know it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think poverty, not having the means to make the ends of
Mm-hmm.
make your family progress obligates you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot in, especially in the rural areas of Sinaloa, of Sonora, of Guerrero, Michoacan.
Mm.
You have kids that don't have the opportunity to go to school, to middle school, because their families don't have the ends meet to send them to school. Yeah. What do they have else? Pick up a rifle and work for the cartel.
Right. So, and what can a typical sicario or is a soldier in a military branch of the cartel considered a sicario, or is a sicario's more specialized hitman? Is there a distinction?
No, I think it's just a general term for someone that dedicates himself to protecting the boss or the bosses or fighting the territory of the general. Who's
a part of the armed wing of it.
Yeah.
Guerrero means soldier.
Guerrero means warrior.
Warrior.
Yeah.
Okay. Soldado is soldier. So there's real distinctions. There's the armed wing of this cartel, and then there's the drug traffickers, people that put the money behind it, influence it, and make it dance on the strings.
It's funny how those people that do the dance on the strings, they'll have meetings and they'll be drinking whiskey, they'll be talking about business while their people are killing each other. They'll be having wars. They call it, we're just having a little war.
Yeah,
1,000 men against another 1,000 men.
Yeah,
and the main bosses, they don't really care about their soldiers.
Yeah,
for them it's just like a show of power to the other person.
Like politicians, right?
Exactly like politicians,
There's an obsession with death in Mexico. There's, no offense, I think less value on human life than perhaps in the United States. I mean, I'm being nice about that. There is just clearly less of a care for life than in places like Britain or the United States. Do you think that has to do with the history of the Aztecs and the bloodletting and something to do with Catholicism and the afterlife? Like, because clearly there's some kind of religious undertones to the loyalty that a region will have to its cartel. Almost like it's the way that in England there's this religious attitude towards your soccer team, right?
Yeah.
Are you Liverpool or what's the big one? Help me out. Manchester.
I doubt it, because obviously,
like you guys are. My point is, you don't seem scared to die. Obviously, there's a fear of death, but when you get into this business that there's a good chance you could get killed. Mm-hmm. There's less of an individualistic attitude in Mexico than there is in the United States. You're like, that's the boss. This is the way things are. We fight and kill. They make money.
Yeah. It's just the acceptance of being a soldier,
Mm-hmm.
having, getting respect and earning respect from people that humiliated you when you were nothing. And a lot of these people do it because of that, because of getting tired of being put down by other people that think that they're better than them,
Mm-hmm.
It's more an act of honor, an act of how do you say it?
Validation?
Like validation, respect from their peers, from the peers.
Right. So it's the reason people join gangs.
It's basically the same thing. Right. But obviously, you're playing a totally different game than in the U.S. with gangs.
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult. But
So you're from Guerrero. I love saying that word, Guerrero. I'm one of the few güeros that can pronounce the double R in Spanish. I take pride in that. You're from Guerrero. What city in Guerrero?
it's a you remember? Do you remember about the 43 missing students? I'm from that area, Cocula.
That's a rural area.
Yeah, that's where they found the 43 missing students, and the ones that happened a few years ago.
Yeah.
You remember about
They
them?
kidnapped a
the
bunch
kidnapped
of
students
and killed them.
The cartel, the mayor of the city of Guerrero, of Iguala, had a problem with these kids because they were protesting every time. They were protesting against the government. So the cartel that was there, it was Los Rojos. They basically were arrested by the government and given to the Rojos, and the Rojos did their mess. Yeah.
What did your parents do?
My dad used to work in a lumber company in the U.S., and my mom was just a stay-at-home mom.
Okay, so you moved to L.A. Your parents relocated to L.A. when you were very young.
Yeah, 2 years. I have no memories of Mexico.
Yeah. So you grew up, your formative years were in L.A., Compton.
Yeah.
Okay, so your dad had a good job or a working class job.
Yeah.
Mom stayed at home. Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have one brother and two sisters.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was childhood like?
You know, it was pretty good. You know, growing up in the American culture. You know, except for racism, obviously. But everything else was. We were living a dream. You know, I was living a dream because I didn't even know I was from Mexico. My parents would tell me, if anybody asks you, you were born in the U.S.
Right. You're not going to have an accent.
Yeah, exactly, because I went to school in the U.S. But
you're from the nice part of Compton, I assume, right? The Mexican part.
We moved a lot. So
Okay.
we were moving a lot. We moved from L.A. to Inland Empire, San Bernardino. I've lived in Yucaipa, Cali Mesa, Redlands. My mom's living there right now.
Okay.
We were always moving, but it's, you know, that the school districts are different from LA to San Bernardino, you know? But in general, like, obviously you got gangbanging, you got Hispanics against Hispanics, you got Hispanics against blacks. You even got, living in Yucaipa, I even got to deal with skinheads, you know?
Yeah.
With white,
Sure. Yeah.
with their type of, like, you don't see them in LA, you see them more up to the north, predominantly white people,
Right.
to deal with them. But other than that, it was it's a different world, you know.
Was it stable though? Like, did your parents stay together? Did you guys,
When
did you
we-
have enough to eat?
When we were young, obviously, yeah, my father was providing for the family. My mom and my dad were Christians, you know, Baptist Christians. So they would take us to church. We would go to church, and obviously they would try to keep us away from the streets and from gang life.
Yeah.
And I could say we were doing pretty well until my own father broke our family apart. He my sister, my own father, our own blood father, destroyed our family basically. And that's what basically kicked the domino effect in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. Just destroyed everything. Of course.
I was 13, bro.
Yeah. How old was your sister?
My sister was probably 9.
Okay. So your father went to prison?
Yeah. He went to Avenal State Prison.
Okay.
He did 13 years in Avenal State Prison.
That's it?
That's it. That's what the U.S. government gave him.
Huh. So he's out now?
Yeah, he's out.
And I assume there's no more contact,
No.
anything like that. Okay. So you were 13 when this happened.
Yeah.
And from there, everything unravels. And by 16, you're back in Mexico.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Obviously, when the situation with my father happened, I turned towards the streets.
Yeah.
You know, you tend to look for people that are in the same situation, the same boat.
Naturally.
Not having a parent or being from a broken family. Sometimes being in my own home, my own mom would tell me, like, well, it was your fault that this happened to your sister, because you, as the oldest, you should have protected her or seen after her. But in reality, I had no idea what had happened. You know, it's a memory that's stuck in my head, and it's like if it happened yesterday. We were sitting down. I remember I was eating a bowl of cereals when my mom and my sister came out of the bathroom. My sister was crying. My mom was crying, and she tried to take us to a vehicle to try to leave because they were going to call the cops, but she wasn't telling us what was going on. When I asked her like, what's going on, she ended up telling us what had happened. Your own father raped your sister. And having that, I think it's the trauma of living that at such a young age pushed me to start getting into problems. I was getting kicked out of school constantly. I got sent to county school, day school. It just got out of hand.
Yeah, nobody can tell you after that happens, right?
No.
And what a powerless feeling. Did you blame yourself at the time?
Not really. I blame more God, I think I would sometimes sit outside on my roof. We were living in an apartment complex, and I would get on top of the roof and I would just look up in the sky and ask myself, like, why did this happen to my family? We're good Christians, because I thought we were good Christians, my mom was pretty strict with us, and I would think to myself, like, why our family, and like I said, that pushed me towards the streets. Obviously you start robbing, stealing, because understand that my mom had never worked in the US. My mom did not speak English. Right. She only spoke Spanish. The government obviously took my dad and froze his accounts. My mom could no longer get anything that belonged to him.
Right.
Everything was seized. And they gave her food stamps, like a $200 food stamps for 4 kids.
Yeah. Try that. Good luck.
And having to be the oldest and seeing your mom crying at night because she didn't have money to pay the bill. She didn't have money to pay the rent.
Yeah.
It was difficult,
Yeah.
It was
she had
difficult.
no work history besides raising you guys.
Bro, she had never, like, she didn't even, like, my dad didn't even want to show her how to drive. She had to force herself to learn how to drive, because obviously, Mexicans have that machismo. They're very, very strict with regarding their women.
Yeah.
And my dad was like that with my mom. And unfortunately, I was the oldest, and I was the one that was taking all this trauma in, that's what led me to be in the streets. I was living in the streets. I ran away from home because of the same situation, the same problems that we were having, that she would blame me about what had happened, and I would take it out on everything, on school, on everything. I wasn't even going to school anymore. I was home invasion, you name it. I was doing,
heading for the same place where your dad's at.
Yep.
Wow. So what ultimately brought you to Mexico?
Hanging around with the wrong crowd, I've always liked guns. That's something that I've always been a fan of. Growing up in middle school, I remember the Marines coming into school and showing you the what is it called? They basically they talk about their jobs, this and that. Once you finish your high school, you can,
Exactly. Look at me. I got, they paid for all of it. And
when as a young kid, I was like, I want to be like him. I have that in me, that warrior class from Mexico, obviously, and it would draw my attention. So, I remember I was thinking to myself, like, I want to become a Marine. But hanging around with the wrong crowd led me to start using weapons at a young age and get involved in gun violence,
right,
to the point where it was no longer safe for me to be in Southern California.
Were you shooting at people?
You could say that.
Yeah.
It's common in the US and back in the day, the drive-bys and all kinds of that. And it's funny how they fight for something that's not even theirs,
Right. And there's no money in it.
And there's no money.
At least people shooting people in Mexico, there's real money on the line. That's so funny you say that. I always would think that. I'm like, there's no organization or reason behind this gang violence. There really never has been in America, Like, there's drug dealing, and then there's like senseless gang violence. And sure, they sell little hand-to-hand drugs, but it's all over identity and like something to do.
And where you're from, what's your colors. Stupid That in reality, it's.
Did you have like a crew that you were
I was
rolling
a
around with?
sureño, yeah. I was a sureño.
You were a sureño. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sureño's like the arm, for those that don't know. That's basically the Mexican mafia. Sureños are like the armed wing of the Mexican mafia.
Yeah, it's in the 90s it became really popular.
Yeah.
You got Florencia 13, you got Playboy 13 from LA.
Right.
You got all these gangs representing the 13, the Sur, you know.
Yeah.
And obviously hanging around with Hispanics and being around with Hispanic gang members.
Mm-hmm.
You adopt that culture, you know.
Yeah.
At a very young age. So when I started seeing that my life was basically going to the I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to make a change in my life. And my brilliant idea was go back to Mexico.
Oh, dude, I think that every other week. Trust me.
Brother, I don't know. I think I was too immature. I was too young to really open my eyes and see that Mexico was not what I thought it was. And that the violence in Mexico was in a whole different level, you know?
Obviously. Did you catch a case or anything in America?
No.
Oh, okay. So did you drop out of high school? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I dropped out of high school.
You had a plan to go work, or what was the idea?
Just try to like get away from everything that I had been building up in the US regarding like building up in problems.
Yeah. And you're fleeing this awful memory of
exactly.
what happened with your father, and
I come to realize now that I'm more mature that at the end of the day I was running away from the trauma that I was carrying with me. In my mind I was saying, you know what, I'm gonna head to Mexico. I speak English. I can go work at Cancun. I can go work in Acapulco.
Right.
I can get a job as an English speaking person and just forget about what happened and start my life. And actually, that's what I tried to do at the beginning.
Where's the first place you went?
Toluca. I went to. I came out in San Isidro, got in on a plane in TJ, and landed in Toluca in Estado de Mexico.
Okay.
The state of Mexico, not Mexico City.
Okay.
From there, I got a bus, went down to Guerrero, to where I'm originally, like where I was born. And realized that I was up in the mountains where there's nothing. There's no light. There's no running water. There's nothing, bro.
Welcome to home. You're back home, bro. This is what it's like.
It felt weird, you know. It's like, man, people in the U.S. They take for granted having hot water in their sinks, you know. They take for granted having actual sewage. How do you call it?
Sewage.
Yeah, sewage.
Running. Yeah, plumbing.
You know, small things like that, having AC or heating inside of the home.
So you're from that kind of Mexico.
Yeah, I'm from the mountains.
We call that like third world Mexico, because there's really two Mexicos.
Yeah.
Mexico is an incredibly rich, in certain parts, incredibly developed country. I was just in Mexico City. It looks like London in parts. It looks like Paris. It's, you know, you've got Fortune 500 companies there. You've got people that look like gringos, right?
Yeah.
And you've got law enforcement that's super capable when they want to be, you know? And then in the hinterlands, the middle of the country in the South, it looks like 1940. You know what I mean?
You got the rural areas where there's no government, there's no police. There's
no infrastructure.
There's nothing, bro.
Yeah.
The town that I was born is called La Monera. It's basically a small. It belongs to the municipio of Cocula, where they found these students. But from where I was born to Cocula, it's like a 45-minute drive through dirt roads, bro.
Yeah, mountains.
There's only one actual transport that goes in the morning and it comes out in the afternoon.
All right, it's a bus, right?
It's a bus. And that's all you got.
And a lady might have chickens on there.
Yeah, that kind of life.
So when you returned to your village, did you still have family down there, like cousins or?
My dad's family. So this is when my dad was in prison.
Yeah.
I went down to where I was born, and I met my grandparents, his parents.
Did they know what happened?
Yeah, obviously they knew what had happened.
Did you feel some kind of way up towards them?
Not really, because they weren't in favor or against. Like in the U.S., I have his brothers were in favor of him, saying, "Oh no, your mom did it because she wanted to get with another man."
Oh,
You know,
she's
that
lying.
kind of yeah.
Right.
But down in the South, they really weren't. They really had nothing to say. You know,
So there wasn't a rift in the family. They were happy to see you.
No. Only in the U.S. because
Okay.
I actually got into a couple fights, went to break a couple windows when some of my uncles were basically trying to brainwash me, telling me, you know what, your mom did this because of this and that.
Right.
You know.
Today's episode sponsored by Mando. You know Mando by now. They're the world's first full body deodorant. You put them on your pits, your face, bottoms of your feet, the back of your kneecap, the back of your scrotum, the top of your taint, everywhere. It's safe for everywhere, and it controls odor for 72 hours. They've got bourbon leather, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, Cloverwoods, or unscented. It was created by a doctor who realized that BO was going misdiagnosed and mistreated. This is the only deodorant I use, truly. Like, I get sent a lot of different products by brand sponsors, and I usually don't become like a full-blown customer right away. I did with Mando. I used their sample, and now I'm hooked. I get a re-up delivered straight to my door. It's gentle enough for all your areas because it's aluminum-free, baking soda-free, cruelty-free, dye-free, and vegan. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. Check it out. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, plus free shipping. Why would you not do this? Are you ready to make the upgrade to Mando? New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code Mitchell at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. Again, use that promo code Mitchell at shopmando.com. I can't recommend Mando enough. Just use them. Stop buying that garbage like it's the 90s off the rack at the drugstore. Use Mando. Use that promo code. Get your deodorant shipped to you. Start smelling fresh and start being healthier, getting rid of all that crap they put in the other leading brands. Mando, shopmando.com with that promo code Mitchell. All right, let's get back into it. Now that we have you smelling fresh, let's have you looking fresh. True Classic, my new favorite clothing brand. Check it out. So my body type makes it exceedingly difficult to shop for premium essential clothing, okay? Stuff's either too tight or usually way too big at the bottom and it kind of flowers out like a dress at the back. Don't you hate when your shirts do that? I really need almost custom fitting clothing at this point. Now, the problem is customized clothing is super expensive usually, especially if you're shopping for it online. But True Classic has kind of stepped in and solved this problem. I love it because the material is breathable, looks great, and it's like it's tailored to my body type. It hugs my biceps. It hugs my waist at the bottom. True Classic has stepped in and fixed this problem for me. They feel and look like tailored clothes. They hug my biceps, they hug my waist, but they're also breathable. They look amazing. They just conform to my body type. It's incredible. It's a custom tailored look at off-the-rack prices. We're coming into winter now, so I need gear that's gonna keep me warm, look great, and that's versatile. Stuff that I can wear to the gym, wear on a date, wear podcasting. True Classic has me covered for any situation. This makes for great gifts too for Christmas, great stocking stuffers. They've got best-selling t-shirts, hoodies, jeans, and more in 3, 6, and 9 packs. 100% perfect fit guarantee and easy returns. The holidays are here and True Classic's ultra comfortable, perfect fitting essentials make for the perfect gift for you and for the men in your life. So if you're ready to upgrade your closet, shop now and unlock big savings during their huge holiday sale. Just go to my exclusive link at trueclassic.com/connect to save. That's trueclassic.com/CONNECT. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. End the year with holiday cheer thanks to True Classic. So you got back there. What do they do for work? Like, how do you survive in those villages?
Well, you got the they grow corn. They grow pumpkin. You know the pumpkin seed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They grow tomatoes. What else? Pepinos, cucumbers, amapola, and marijuana.
Yeah.
So it has its like there's temporadas. You know how you say it? There's seasons for every single thing.
Yeah.
But it's hard work. You know.
Yeah.
It's
farming.
It's farming. It's real farming.
Yeah. Do they grow marijuana to scale to then sell off to the groups?
Yeah.
Organizations?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they get paid pennies compared to what the organizations actually sell it out for.
Yeah, and I imagine now that's basically mostly died out because there's no more weed racket in the U.S. So you get there. Tell us what you did at first.
So at the beginning, I remember that at first it was like I wanted to wake up and I wanted to go back to the U.S.
Yeah.
I was closing my eyes. And I was thinking like, what did I get myself into? Like,
right.
Like I'm not about this life because obviously I had never been in rural Mexico, and I found the hard way that it's difficult. I started working as a handyman, construction, making cement on the ground, hard work. Where you'd go back home and you'd have a fever of how hard the work was.
Yeah.
And I saw that there wasn't no money. Like you had freedom. Yeah, you could go smoke weed. You can carry a shotgun. You can go hunt. You can go fish because we got El Rio Balsas that passes by. So we would fish when there was no work. We would go fish when we didn't have anything to eat. We would go kill iguanas, garrobos we call them. They're basically the green iguana. The iguanas that you see in Florida.
Yeah,
black.
Wow.
They're black. Ooh. Instead of green, they're black.
Imagine one of those in your kitchen. That's scary.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're delicious?
They're good, bro.
How do you prepare them? Do you eat them like shish kebabs, like off a stick, or do you put them in tacos?
You peel them and then you do them with comino and salt and on oil. And it fries up and it tastes good.
Sounds pretty good.
They also cut off his head and they put the blood of the iguana into a cup and they mix it with Coca-Cola and they say it's for your eyesight. If you're going blind, you can go get one of those.
I love a Mexican village old wives' tale. I love that.
Some crazy stuff. But you know what? I fell in love with nature. I fell in love with being out there. But at the same time, I noticed that it's very hard because there's no money.
That's the difficulty. You really have freedom. There's nobody that tells you don't go fish, don't go hunt, don't go drink iguana's blood. Yeah. You can carry a gun around. It's actual freedom. Yeah. It's how most people used to live, but
exactly.
You got to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one scene that I wasn't going to be able to sustain my life, I was like, you know what? I'm going to move from here. I'm going to go out closer to Mexico City, try to find a good job.
Some work.
And I did. I ended up moving to a state called Morelos. And there I met people from the organization. Obviously, you see and you meet people that work for the organization in growing amapola, processing the heroin, and obviously marijuana as well. And you're always like you're just seeing how there is people that are coming up from that environment. But you also hear from those rural areas like Guerrero about people that kill for money. So we call them mata por paga. And that was something that drew my attention. Like I said, I always wanted to be a Marine, I looked up to the military, and I even tried joining the military in Mexico, but I was told like I couldn't because of tattoos, because of piercings, because of my education. So when I would hear these tales of old men fighting it out and the courage that they had to do their business, inside of me I was like, you know what, I want to employ myself as a hitman. I want to see if I have it to to pull the trigger.
Right.
In Morelos, obviously the life is a lot. You got a lot more commodities, but it's still difficult.
Were you in a city?
It's not really a city. It's like towns, but you got more infrastructure.
Right.
There's a lot more movement.
Were you approached by an organization, or did you find them?
No,
because American Chicanos, American Mexicans that go back to Mexico, whether they're on the run or for whatever reason, they're prime targets for recruitment by these groups, whether that's to be a mula or a mata por paga, because you're not really Mexicans, you're Americans, and you don't have any opportunities, so you get swooped up.
After being in Morelos and seeing how the situation was, because you face a lot of racism even in Mexico, not racism regarding your race, but more your class. There's a very high. There's no middle class in Mexico. There's you're rich or you're dead poor. Obviously, the situation is changing now,
Right.
because you're starting to see a lot more middle class.
Yeah.
But back then, it was like you have these people that try to humiliate you. So I looked towards the north. I'm like, if I can't go back to the U.S., I'm at least going to go to the border, and I head back to Mexicali, to Chicali.
Mm-hmm.
And in Chicali, I got a good job. I started working as a technical. I used to work for AT&T as in a call center.
Okay.
Using my English.
Yeah.
And there's when I start meeting people that were working for the Sinaloa cartel, moving obviously drugs from a port to security houses in Mexicali. And if a lot of people know about the cartels, they know that Sinaloa has always had the border crossing of Mexicali has always been of El Mayo Zambada.
Okay.
So
right.
it's a desert, and it's we call it the devil's butthole, because that's how hot it gets. It's unbearably hot.
Yep.
Yeah. Have you been down there to the desert of Altar?
I haven't.
Calexico. Have you been to Calexico?
No, but I've seen images, and I know that it's hot, and it is hot.
Yeah.
Like people end up missing all the time. It's a perfect place for cartels to operate because they can do dirt, stash, kill people, and then flee. And there's just no government that's going to be there to catch them.
The government plays a part.
Yeah, of course.
The government plays its part. But that was where I was introduced to basically the killing game. You know, the mata por paga. I left my job as a tech support agent because I don't know, I didn't like the stress, bro, of being in a desk on a computer talking to people from Florida, from the because we used to cover the east side of the US. And it was just stressful, man. It's like, this is not for me, you know. I ain't about to do this. So I started contacting the people that were working in that job, but also working for the cartel. And that's how I started. I got sent to Sonora to work for a certain person.
Okay.
As a hitman.
Was he a boss, or was he?
No, he was a lieutenant. He was how do you call it? He was the one that was in charge of that area.
Okay.
A big piece of Sonora.
So that's like a
un lugarteniente. Have you heard of that name? Lugartenientes?
No.
So you got the main boss, and then he has lugartenientes, people that are in charge of certain areas, but they still respond to him.
Right. Plazas.
They're the ones that are in charge of several plazas,
right?
Not just one.
I see.
So a lieutenant will be in charge of one plaza or two. A lugarteniente will be responsible for the.
I see. He's like a general manager, basically, of a region. Yeah, regional manager.
Yeah, regional manager. And exactly, regional manager is a perfect explanation.
And this is obviously the armed wing. This is the guy that has intelligence and is overseeing guys like you.
Yeah.
And could you explain, so would you think this guy's reporting directly back to Mayo in Sinaloa, or is there an intermediary between the boss and, guys in the armed organization? How do you think that communication goes?
It's complicated because obviously you got certain factions that are loyal to Chapo Guzman, and you got other factions that are loyal to Mayo Zambada. But that faction and this person that I'm speaking about was obviously all the time responding to El Mayo Zambada.
What year was this?
This was back in 2011, 2012.
Okay, so Chapo's still out.
Yeah.
It's still, the cartel hasn't really bifurcated yet.
It hasn't broken down. It was basically in their more golden era.
Yeah. Exactly. Wow. Okay, so can you explain how cartel violence is used to open up drug routes? Everybody hears that like they're fighting over drug routes, but can you explain what that actually means?
That means basically coming into a plaza that does not belong to you, and to disrupt their whole organization or their whole structure of control. That means going from going from drug dealers to people that are in charge of communications to the supplier of drugs. And then you start getting involved with other hitmen, other lieutenants that are protecting the plaza. But basically, it's whoever can inflict more violence and commit more heinous acts. That means if you record someone getting their skin, their face skinned alive, to that degree, that whoever can inflict more terror is basically the one that's gonna show more power to dominate that area.
Then how does that help the drugs pass through to the U.S.? There must be some kind of
it's a psychological
communication
game,
with government too, though. That must mean that whoever is in charge of security, whether it's the chief of police or the government over there, they must be taking your money now, right?
Of course.
Like he's dead, you take my money, and
exactly.
This is how we get the dope through.
Exactly.
Am I right?
Yeah. That's almost all the government plays a part in a certain degree. You know? They're all put in a certain place because they obey orders from a certain cartel. So let's say, like you just said, a head of police of El Paso, Texas, he might respond to El Cartel del Golfo, but you got CNG that are coming in. Yeah. They'll go after the main boss, right, just to inflict fear on the government and say, we're not around. Right. If you guys don't take our money, we're gonna keep on you guys up. Right. So it's
and they might even get killed if they don't take the money.
It's like Pablo Escobar says, plata or plomo. And there's areas where they don't offer plata; they just offer plomo. Right. Especially down in the rural areas like Michoacan, Guerrero, they're not gonna bribe you. They're gonna put fear into you and say, if you don't pay us, we're gonna kill you. Right. And
so what was your first assignment? Well, what city were you in when you went to work? Was it Mexicali or was it somewhere else?
It was in Sonora.
Sonora. Yeah, Sonora. So Sonora's a state. So do you remember which?
Yeah, I remember. I don't want to say.
Okay, fair enough.
It was near a border. Basically, the first things that they see in a person is that they want to see if that person has the ability to pull the trigger. They'll send you with a group of people to a certain city, and they'll keep you in a certain location, just chilling while they have other people locating the target. They'll call you up at any time, at any moment, say, hey, you know what? The target's available. Get in your vehicle, get in your motorbike, and go do the action. They just want to see what you can do. Yeah.
Can you tell us about your first job?
It was basically someone that was running the drug distribution for that plaza that we were in. It's you could say it's like anything, you know. The first time you do it, you're nervous because obviously you've never done it. But I always put my mind or fixed my mindset that it was just a job. It's nothing personal, you know. I'm just there to do a job because obviously I want to continue my career in this. Yeah. Because I had they gave me the opportunity to demonstrate who I was, so I wasn't about to let them down. But it was quick. It was just it was something. How can you say this? It was up in front, close.
It was close. It wasn't a drive-by.
No. I walked up to the person, basically. Yeah.
What kind of gun do you have?
I had a 45.
Huh, that's a big gun.
Yeah, especially when you're managing that type of caliber, you gotta be close to the person, right? Because you ain't gonna hit them from 10, 15 meters. You ain't gonna hit no one.
Were they outside, or did you break into where they were at?
They were drinking. Yeah,
I see.
They just told me what kind of clothes he was wearing. Got off the car, I put men sin tela pistola, like they say. Walked in, and I just verified that it was him. Pulled out my gun and just went at him.
Just him? You didn't hit the other people at the table?
Because obviously the target was him.
Yeah.
There's organizations that will literally dismember you if you kill someone that they don't give the order to. Wow. I've seen that happen personally.
That's interesting. They're even though obviously there are these horrific acts of civilians getting killed, Mexican cartel violence isn't like old, like Colombian style spraying everybody just to get one guy. It does seem much more like they don't want to touch civilians.
This is what happens when you touch someone that's innocent. You're gonna bring the fire on your own organization.
Yeah.
Because obviously government's gonna make a blind eye if you kill another cartel member.
Yeah, look at
if you kill someone that is not a good person towards society. But if you kill an innocent girl, an innocent boy, or an innocent bystander, you're gonna have the whole government asking question, what's going on here, you know?
Right.
So
and they don't want, it's in Mexico, as we know, it's all about appearances.
Yeah.
It's all this veneer of everything's okay. No, everything okay. No pasa nada.
Exactly.
No
No pasó nada.
So you hit him. How many times you hit him? Do you remember?
4 times. Like 4.
And you were confident that it was a kill shots?
You get basically explained how you're gonna kill him. Okay. So before they take you to the city and they put you into a security house, they'll have you out in the desert training, and they'll give you a rundown on how to engage a target. For those that have military expertise, everybody understands you're not gonna headshot anybody.
No.
You're gonna reassure him in the chest. So they explained to us 2-3 in the chest, in the torso, and you end up coming up to him and 1 in the head just to make sure he's dead. So that's the way that you.
So they had you out there in the desert training?
Yeah. They train you. They if they see that you have cormillo, that you have that you're gonna be a valuable asset.
We call that juice in the U.S. Yeah.
They'll pay people, Green Berets, ex-Navy SEALs, to come down and train you. You got the Guatemala, you got the Caibiles, you got the Gafes, ex-Zetas that are no longer Zetas.
Right.
That obviously that they'll come and they'll
train
instruct
sicarios.
You.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow. So now you're in. You proved yourself.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
I was like around. I was gonna turn 19.
Okay, so you made it
18,
about 3 years.
Yeah.
What's the average age? Was that about a normal age?
I've seen kids that are 13, 12 years old that are killing people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's opportunities to rise up within the armed wings of these organizations, you were saying?
Yeah, it's they want to see intelligence, they want to see organization, they want to see leadership, that people follow your orders, and that you are able to demonstrate that you can that you do good under pressure.
Right.
Yeah. So once I started putting in the work that I was putting in, I was sent to a different state with a different group, and they told me, you know what, we're gonna let you control a group of people, and we want to see what you can do. Okay.
So, but the whole umbrella is still Sinaloa, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously, you're not switching sides to a different cartel. You mean a different group that is either doing work in a certain plaza, right? What state were you in next?
San Luis Potosí.
Yes.
San Luis Potosí.
Yeah, but what is?
It's San Luis.
That's a state?
Yes, it's a state.
Where the is that?
San Luis Potosí.
I know Mexico. Where is San Luis Potosí, Brian?
It's near Aguascalientes.
Okay, so this is way far away from Sonora.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What is Sinaloa doing all the way over there?
Bro, they got people in Chiapas. They got. So Sinaloa basically is the name of the organization.
Yeah.
But the organization needs connection with other criminal organizations, with other groups that have their own infrastructure
that are local,
but that they're making a chain with the bigger name of the Cartel Sinaloa.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you got people that have to take care of the ports, because obviously there's a lot of merchandise coming into the ports. So you got people fighting down in Chiapas, the ports of Acapulco,
right,
Quintana Roo.
Yeah.
You got organizations that are big, that have to come and speak to the bandits that live in these areas and say, so you're working for us or you're working for them.
Right.
And if they accept the help, they get the
rewards from it. They split in the whatever.
They get how do you say apoyo? How do you say that apoyo? They get help from the organization. So most of these smaller branches or smaller organizations, they might be in war with another organization. An example, Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación.
Right.
It blew up real quick and it started expanding everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So you had little organizations that couldn't defend themselves against them. So what Sinaloa did was send people down to the south, speak to them. You know what? You're going to work for us. We're going to help you with people, with guns, with money to fight.
Protection against the CJNG.
So what do they have? They have lives. They have people that they can volunteer to build the organization.
And that's how a place like Sinaloa in northwestern Mexico is able to operate thousands of miles away in the south.
Yep.
I see. When you were up north in Sonora, like when you're working for this group and you got to go kill somebody, do you know what you're doing it for? Like in the south in Chiapas, it's probably for people smuggling, right? Mm-hmm. But in Sonora, did they say, hey, we're taking this over because of this reason?
They're not going to explain to a basic soldier what they want. It might be someone that from the same organization that they just want someone taken out, you know?
Right. And they don't explain why. And you don't ask why.
Asking gets you killed, bro.
I'm such a weirdo. I would get killed so quickly.
The
whole time I was down in Culiacan, Brian will tell you this. I'm like, how does it work? How does it work? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, how do you become a boss? They're like, well, you have to be like born into it. And I'm such an American. I'm like, but what if you want to start your own thing? Like it's got, you know what I mean? And it just doesn't work that way down there. You know, I guess I'm an American, you know, and that's why in America, there can never exist something like these structures in Mexico, because whenever someone tries to organize, there'll be a dickhead like me who will say, no, I can do it better. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like there's too much freedom in the United States. In Mexico, it's like we take orders because of this. There's logic. You know, it's cultural, it's economic, fascinating. So you're down now in, San Luis. Yeah. And you've got your own responsibilities now.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to earn that?
A year and a half.
Okay.
Because I was the type of person that I'm not going to ask questions. I just want to make sure that the person that's the target is available, and I'm not going to risk. Like I'm not stupid. I'm not just going to jump out the car. And I like to be very
methodical.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the only way you're going to survive in that game. Because obviously there's areas where you're operating where if you slip and the government gets you, they'll deliver you to the rivals.
Right.
They won't even report that they arrested you. They'll directly take you to the rivals, and you don't want that.
And you won't walk out alive.
They saw that I wasn't dumb. I wasn't. We have a saying in Mexico: "Los huevos, tener huevos, gets you killed really quick." Mm-hmm. You know, because a bull has big old balls, and but you can easily get them to an ambush.
Sure.
So with balls, you got to have a lot of intelligence to make it work. Mm-hmm. So they saw that I was really efficient in what I was doing, and obviously, it wasn't that I was efficient. It was more that I was looking for a way out in my own life. I didn't have the courage to take my own life. You know, I wanted to die, but I didn't want to die by my own hand. I wanted to die in
battle.
I wanted
glory.
To die exactly.
How much were they paying you at the time?
Bro, you don't even want to know.
Yeah, I do, but it's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt a lot. 3,500 pesos.
A month?
Quincenales. Every 15 days. Bro.
Okay, so they're paying you 7,000 pesos a month?
3,500, yeah. 7,000 pesos a month.
Which comes to how many dollars?
Bro, it's like probably like $400, $500, I think.
So that's probably just more than what you can make in the fields, right?
Yeah, no, and in that moment, it was more than what you can make. Obviously, right now, a month, everybody's making above 14,000. But in that time, yeah, obviously.
They adjust for inflation.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have to pay you a little more or else people wouldn't do it.
People won't do it.
Because the minimum wage, I think, is like $7. In 2020, they told me it was $7 a day. Mm-hmm. So it's a little more than that, but it's not great money.
No.
It's just enough to basically.
That's your pay as a foot soldier.
Yeah.
Then comes kidnapping, extortion.
What do you mean?
Most of these branches, these military branches, obviously they need to feed people.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the bosses aren't going to be available. They're not available for you to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I want to go." Nah, that's not how you're going to see them. That's why that's why they've survived so long, because they're very cautious on how they deal with stuff. So maybe you're a lieutenant and you're running out of money and you have to feed your people, or else your people are going to start running away.
Right.
So what do? You start robbing, you start extortioning, you start kidnapping people. You extortion under the name of your organization, protection money.
Right.
It's basically just extortion.
Oh, so if you're a lieutenant that's in charge, a general manager that's in charge of a couple of plazas, you basically get a bag of money from the boss back home and say, this is what you need for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
But if they run out of that and something's going on with the boss, maybe he's on the run, maybe it's super hot, he can't get a hold of him.
Yep.
Now, we got to go to the mattresses.
And sometimes it's even the bosses, bro, that they send you to kidnap people. That's something that I didn't like from the organization, that they send you to kidnap people.
Really?
Yeah, bro. It's like, let's say you're you're a part of the money laundering of the other rival organization. So what they will do, because they know that you're money laundering for the rivals, they'll pick you up and or take your daughter, your son, and then they'll ask for ransom money.
Right.
And they'll make sure that they take everything that you got.
Wow. So you were involved in that?
I don't want to respond to that, but I saw it happen a lot. And a lot of people are in prison for that, and they're facing up to 80, 140 years of prison in Mexican prisons.
Right.
That's one of the highest, most
crimes.
sentences that you can get is kidnapping.
I thought Sinaloa prided themselves on not doing that.
That's what they all say.
It's propaganda.
It's propaganda, bro.
Okay.
I'm not. Let me correct myself. It's not propaganda. Maybe Miles Zambada's close generals, they don't do that because they got the money. Miles Zambada is a strong, important piece, and his sons are strong pieces in the organization, and they've always distinguished themselves in having more class and ethics regarding kidnapping.
Right.
So I'm not gonna say they all do it, but to a certain degree, on the lower ranks, they all do it.
Right. And maybe it doesn't get up to the boss.
Exactly.
Maybe they don't even know that their lieutenants are doing it. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because obviously they know that life is not going to be forever. So a lot of people, they take advantage of the opportunity that they're given, and they try to assure themselves that they'll leave something for their family in case anything happens to them.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're about 2021 now, when you've leveled up a little bit and you're in charge of a group. How much are you getting paid now? Do you get a little pay raise?
Yeah. I was making probably like 5,000 every 2 weeks.
5,000 pesos?
5,000
Okay.
pesos.
So we got a bump.
And now they're giving you free meth. And if you want to sell it, you can make money, or if you're not, you can give it to your own people. But
I didn't know it worked that way. So that's pretty common for them to pay you in drugs to sell?
In meth or coke.
Yeah. Okay. What's the biggest? Did you sell it? I know you don't like drug dealing.
No.
You didn't sell it?
No. I gave it to the people that I had.
Wow.
Let them do whatever they want.
So you weren't driven by
money, no.
greed, money.
No.
Drug use, I know, is rampant amongst sicarios. You know, all we did was sniff coke with these guys when we were down in Culiacan. You know, is that because it's very boring?
Did you ever see them do meth?
No.
Meth is a no in the organization.
Really?
Yeah.
No meth.
No meth. You can't even pick up a weapon if you're on meth.
Really?
Yeah, no.
They'll beat you down, or they'll give you the tabla. Can you explain the tabla just for fun?
The tabla is something. It's a 2x4 that has. You're playing a cricket.
Right. It's like a cricket.
It's like a cricket paddle.
Right.
With holes driven into the paddle, so that when they swing that paddle, it doesn't catch any air, and then when it hits you, I've seen grown men cry like little girls, bro. and I've seen grown men hit themselves. Like,
Really?
that's how bad the tabla is.
Oh, so it's not like a frat fraternity just giving you 5 smacks.
No,
They really hurt you.
they really hurt you because it's a disciplinary action.
Right.
And if you're like, let's say, an example, you have people that are selling drugs for you. They don't come with the quote of the month. You pull them in, what's going on, this and that. You see that they're not taking it serious. All right, pull their pants down.
Right. And that's comes before getting killed. That's like it's almost like a warning.
Yeah, that's a warning.
Damn. Do you remember? Yes. Oh, damn. What were some of the things that could get you the tabla?
Falling asleep in your guard. So a lot of these military organizations, these branches, they always have to be on the radios. Like there always has to be 2 people awake, hearing the communication of the codes of the chatter that the own organization has. So they'll have certain codes for certain. They'll have codes for like federal agents, for federales, for estatales, for
state police,
military, for marinos, for marines. And you're always playing a cat and mouse game with these the military, and especially with the federal government, not the state government or the local government, because obviously they don't want the heat.
They don't want the smoke.
Yeah, they don't want the smoke.
Yeah.
So when you are put as guard, obviously these kids are snorting. They haven't slept right 2-3 days, and they'll tend to fall asleep. And when they wake up, they see the tabla. You'll also get the tabla if you run away. And if you're in a gunfight and you run.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because you're expected to shoot it out, I think, even with the cops, right?
Oh, no, you kill cops. The only ones that you don't try to kill is the military, because they'll just get reinforced, and obviously they're trained to do that. Federals and state and municipal agencies are trained to maintain order.
Right.
Not to
engage.
Exactly. Right. So when it comes down to that they're not following your rules, you'll engage them, and you'll make sure that each one of them gets taken out, and you pick up the winnings of the combat. That means you take their rifles, you take their pistol, you take their bulletproof vest, you take their radios, you take whatever you can.
Was that pretty wild? So you must have been in some shootouts with cops.
Oh yeah, a lot.
Was that pretty wild? You were like, dude, I come from a place where killing a cop gets you damn near the death penalty, and now I'm taking this guy's bulletproof vest and his gun. Like, as an American, it must have kind of blown your mind, right?
Yeah, because obviously you know that if you kill a police in the U.S., they'll hunt you down.
Obviously,
you know?
Right?
It's a
to these kids who grew up in Mexico, it's normal. But did you realize you were like, did you adapt quickly, or did part of it in the back of your minds you think like, this is crazy?
I adapted pretty quick, and I understood that I was no longer in the American dream. I was in Mexico reality. That it's like, it's not about like. In the U.S., like they're scared of the cops. You can say so. Like they know that.
Yeah.
Like you don't f with the cops. In Mexico, it's like they got a problem with you, then we'll smoke out. We'll ambush them. We'll hunt them down.
Yeah.
There's a lot of footage of friends of mine and other members of other cartels ambushing state police, municipals, federals. In the state of Mexico, not too long ago, they killed 12 state cops and 3 judicial agents. Yeah. And I know the people that did that action. Wow. I know them personally. I was on the phone with them telling them like, why did you guys do it? You know, I said, nah, they raided our homes and they took my tiger, because one of my friends was a boss there. He told me that they had taken his tiger. He had a Bengal tiger.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Bengal tiger. Yeah.
With a collar with diamonds and spikes, and
that's a good use of money,
bro. They would feed their enemies to the tiger.
Really?
Yeah.
Where is this?
This is Estado de Mexico.
Okay. So as retribution, they would ambush these guys.
Yeah.
Wow. So they know.
You would plan the ambush like 2 weeks, and then you'll go spend 3-4 days in the mountains waiting for the radio signal that, the convoy is coming down. 2 trucks of state police. Get ready. line them up, and
what do you when you engage like the state police, for example? What are you guys armed with?
You're armed with rifles.
But what kind?
Well, you got AK-47s. Obviously, that's a staple name of the organization, and you got AR-15s,
right?
5.56 NATO rounds. That's basically those two are the main 7.62 and 5.56 are the main armory of any organization. Obviously, they got 50 cals, but they don't use those on these type of ambushes.
Yeah,
They
what are
use
the
them-
50 cals for?
They're more for cartel against cartel. When they got the monsters, when they got these homemade what do you call them? Tanks. Yeah.
Right.
And they're having their wars. You know that's why they're used.
Right.
They're not gonna waste ammo for 50
some
cal. It's
cops.
so freaking expensive.
Yeah,
They're
of course.
They're not
course.
gonna be just wasting it
Yeah.
to try to kill a bunch of cops. You know.
Do you remember being resupplied with arms? Like, did you ever have to buy arms coming in from this United States?
Yeah. You got specific individuals that's their job. Their job is just the market of selling weapons.
Just to procure weapons.
Yeah, and they'll might even sell to your enemies,
Right.
and you don't even know, because obviously their business is not involved in the cartel. Their business is the
Now, how does that work? Does it's Americans buying guns in the U.S. and then do they bring them to these gun brokers in Mexico, or is it gringos themselves selling the guns?
it's a lot of Chicanos, a lot of Hispanics,
Right? Because they can pass easily.
So I don't know if I'm going to in trouble for this, but I have friends that what they do is they buy a vehicle in the U.S. Not a new vehicle, but not an old vehicle. They have the Mexican government paid off the immigration, and obviously because they are U.S. citizens that are constantly crossing and have a legal business of acquiring vehicles to sell in Mexico, they become really good friends with the U.S. Border Patrol. So they basically hand over a little bit of money. They let the vehicle sit in the immigration for a bit, and then when they get the green light from the Mexican side, they'll bring the vehicle in. They say that it's to not pay the importation tax, but it's not about the importation tax. It's about what the vehicle is bringing in from the U.S. to Mexico. That's going to be ammo. That's going to be money, and obviously weapons.
That's great business for them. Was there ever a time where there was like a drought on weapons? Was there ever a time where it would be hard to get guns?
Nah, it's never hard to get guns. There's always a market for guns. They don't necessarily have to come from the U.S. Yeah. I've seen guns from China, from China there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have to retrain when you get a new batch of like Chinese weapons in?
No. Most of the people are already skilled, and they already know their weapons. But other than that, it's easy. Most of the weapons that they do acquire are basically copies of AK-47s, but Chinese fabricated.
Right.
You know?
So the only people that you guys ran from were the federales, the marinos.
Military.
What is the difference? Can you break down the difference between the marinos and the military and then the federales? Because we hear feds, we think
FBI,
feds.
it's the feds. It's like federales.
Okay.
But
and those guys you can kill?
Yeah. In Mexico, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Silly me.
Yeah. No. But the military is like if you try in the U.S. try to engage the Coast Guards or or you go to San Diego to try to engage the Navy, you ain't gonna do anything to them, you know.
So who are the marinos? The Marines? Is that military?
Yeah, it's military.
That counts as military.
So it's Ejército Mexicano is the greens. The blues are La Marina, and you got the Fuerza Aérea Mexicana. But basically, there's three branches. You know, I know in the U.S. there's like 5-6 branches of different type of military. Right. But in Mexico, it's only two: Marinos and Ejército. Okay.
So those are the guys where if you either duck them or you run away from them,
or you're involved with them. Like, I was witness where sometimes generals from the Marine would come into these ranches and we would be sitting down with our weapons and everything, and they would be having conversations with the person that's in charge, and they would be giving them money to operate in the area that they were operating.
Right.
So there's a lot that are crooked.
Yeah.
But I think there's more that are not crooked.
Right. I've heard that.
They have more ethical values. So I think you could say it like that.
Harder to flip.
Yeah, they're way harder to flip.
Did you ever not engage them, but have to like shoot your way out of like a
lot of times, bro?
Wow.
Yeah, it's with military is you just empty out a mag and you run it and you
book
run
it, right?
it. Yeah,
Did you see any brothers in arms get killed by them?
Yeah, a lot.
Oof.
I have a specific friend that he had this guy had an encounter with the military and they blew his elbow. His hand was hanging off a tendon. They reconstructed his elbow and they just looked like a big old piece of meat there. Like they took bone from the back of his butt from the collar from back here, and they reconstructed it, right? The cartel, because obviously this kid was really how do you say? They had love for this kid. The cartel sent a specific convoy to rescue him from the hospital. They rescue him, and at the end, the military catches him again, and they execute him.
Yeah, because I think they're not above just if they catch you, they'll just kill you right there, right?
Yeah, or they will torture you.
Oh, so they will commit torture.
Yeah. Oh, brother, you have no idea how the Mexican government works.
Could you maybe explain it a little bit?
So after my time as a no longer as a sicario, but as a jefe de sicarios, I start running into government. I start having issues with government. The first time that I was ever apprehended by the Mexican government, I was in a new city and I was trying to locate a target. Right. I think it was a setup because when we arrived to the main Zócalo, you know what a Zócalo is, right?
I forgot.
It's like City Hall. It's like a City Hall. We couldn't see this individual and we did like 3-4 rondines. We came around a couple times and I told the driver, you know what, let's head back because this looks off. They had put a retén, how would you call it? A checkpoint. They had put a checkpoint and towards our security house, and we end up crossing them. They pull us over. I tell the driver to step on it. We end up falling off the motorbike, and I end up getting captured by the government. Bro, I remember, and this guy was a close friend of mine. He asked me, he's like, hey, I wanna start working for the cartel, and I'm like, if you want to work, I can show you this and that. And I remember we were having dinner before this happened, and I told them, whatever happens, like I'm always gonna put myself first to get caught by the government because I know that I know what I'm gonna say. All I need you to do is to make sure that you secure our tools.
Right.
I mean, now I'm talking about pistols, about whatever we're carrying. You get away with what we're carrying, and I'll make sure that I'll
sacrifice yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I already understood the process of how the government worked. Telling him this, I remember we slip in a pavement because there was a lady wetting the pavement. We slip. As we're slipping, I remember I grab them from his hairs and I pick him up and I tell him run, and I give him the backpack with a 9mm Austria 17 Austria. And I turn around and I pick up my hands, and the cops come in front of me and they start pointing their guns, and I'm like, and I turn around and I'm seeing him running. He goes, boom, he drops the backpack and he keeps running.
No.
I was like,
damn.
They asked me, why are you running? Why are you running? I don't got a license. And that's why you panicked? All because you didn't have a license? I'm like, yeah. But inside of me, I was like, I'm going to get f***ed up right now. And as soon as the guy the cop opens the bag, they're like, nah, this is the good one. Es el bueno, es el bueno. They threw me in the back of the truck, the car police truck.
Literally,
like they threw me, and they're like, "Oh, now you're gonna see what's good." God, they start calling up their headquarters, and they're like, "We got him." I'm in my mind, I was like, "Yeah, they're just gonna take me to the processing of the jail," and because I knew that for possession of a firearm, it's not a big deal in Mexico. You can pay a fine. But they did it. They took me to the the basement of the headquarters.
Mm.
And I remember the chief of police comes down and he asks me, he's like, so how are we going to do this? Are we going to do this the hard way or are we going to do this the easy way? And I remember I told him, I'm like, well, what do you want me to say? If I speak, I'm dead. If I don't speak, you're gonna hurt me. So dale duro.
Eso.
Dale duro. And I swear I regret saying that because, bro, they stripped every piece of clothing that I had, and they tied me up with bands from the back and from my feet, and me guanearon, pues, you know, they put me on my stomach and they tied my hands with my feet.
You. Right.
And they're like, we're gonna ask you again, are you gonna speak or what? I'm like, nope. Dale duro. Yeah. This guy grabs a bag and he puts water in it and he puts bleach in it and he puts it over my head and he starts torturing me literally. They ended up busting my eardrum. They broke a rib of the kicks that I was getting. They tortured me to the extreme that they electrified cables. And because you're wet, you're getting beat up, you're wet, you're on concrete, they feel like being wet and having electricity run through your body.
Yeah, it's like you're getting hit by lightning.
In your private parts, and like they do it to the degree that it was bad. They, you know what cal is? Calidra? They use it in construction to make like a white paste. But this cal basically it eats your skin. If you're working, you have to work with gloves. Okay. For those that know about Mexican culture, they know what cal is. Cal will eat you up if you have humidity in your hands. They had a black bin bag filled with cal, and they were gonna put me inside of it, and they were gonna like let the cal just go at me. The good thing was that their time ran out, and I told them inside my mind, I was obviously thinking, my mind was working, trying to think like, how am I gonna get out of this situation? And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna speak. I'm gonna speak. Like, let me go. I'm gonna speak. And they're like, all right, what do you got to say? Like, no, well, I'm working for this person. This just made a
right.
But in my head, I was like, you know what? If they're gonna go out, I'm gonna take them to my enemies because obviously I want to get my enemies. So I set them up with a rival's house because I wanted them to break in and obviously pretend that they had weapons and this and that. But it was just, my idea was, okay, they're gonna have to, at the end of the day, put me in front of the judge, and what are they gonna say? Oh, we cut them with the weapon. So how am I gonna break that? So I tell them, you know what? This security house has this and that. They go in, they break into the house. They don't find, but they bring out my enemy. But his parents and family members were around, and they saw what happened. They take him back to the station, and while I was getting taken back to the headquarters, they're like, "You think you're funny? Like, you think you're funny?" Because obviously they knew that I had just lied to them. They're like, "You're lucky that we gotta entregarte. You know, we gotta deliver you to courts, or else we would have taken you to your rivals." Like, they were just trying to terrorize me. Yeah. They take me to courts, and in the court they say that, oh no, we found both of them. The guy that they went to take out of his house, we found both of them together. Their family came, testified that no, they came and they did this and that. The whole case was dropped because obviously they
caught lying. And
so I kept on working. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna keep on working.
That is savage.
The problem was when I ran into them again. A year passed and I ran into them again, and they recognized me straight away. They're like, "Oh, it's you again." This time there's no holding back. As soon as I walked in, they kicked me in the balls and they started going at it, bro. Wow. And they're like, "No, this time you're not gonna leave that easily." And I was like, "All right, whatever." And I got sent to murder in first degree.
Okay, so let's lead up to that then, because that's what sent you to prison.
Yeah.
Right. So, but you just going back a little bit, you were in the state of San Luis. You're operating. How long are you operating there for?
we would operate a couple months, heat up the place,
Yeah.
and then we would move to another area.
Right.
You can't stay in one single area and heat it up, because eventually the law enforcement are gonna start getting phone calls. Oh, we got a group of kids that are. So you got to be smart. You heat up a place and then you go work to another area.
Right.
Yeah.
Where'd you go after that?
To the south of Mexico.
Chiapas?
Around there.
Is there a reason you don't want to be specific?
Yeah.
Why? But why were you specific with a place like?
Because in those areas, I didn't work that much time. It's not like I didn't. My reputation up in the north and in San Luis, I was basically starting. So the more where I got more recognized and where I was basically where I grew in power regarding the cartel environment was down in the south, and I don't want to get involved.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where you made a name for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk around it. I'm not going to ask you to say anything incriminating. This is a weird question. Was there ever a slow time? Like, is there ever a time within armed wings of the cartels where there's just not a lot to do? Like when a place is stable, you kill everybody, or you kill the right people and drugs are moving through. Is there a time where you're just like, there's not much to do. It's a slow month.
Nah, you take one head, 3 pop up. It's a never ending game of treason, envy, and how do you say this? You said this word. You said this word. Having like the desire of having more.
Greed.
So there's always work to do. There's always people that are a problem for the organization. By that time, when I went down to the south, I was no longer working for the Sinaloa cartel. When I ended up in prison, I left that branch.
Are you allowed to just leave and say,
when you're a hitman,
yeah,
there's people that go work for contracts. Like they only work 6 months. They come back home and they might get an offer from another place, totally different from the organization.
Right.
But because they're already trained, they already know what they're doing. It's like they don't. This is why I say you don't ask questions in that environment.
Right.
Because you ain't gonna get to a new place and say, "Oh, I was working for this guy and this." You don't. You just go do your job and that's it.
Okay, so you can, even though you know the secrets, even though you know to an extent, you don't know the boss, but back in Sinaloa, but you know how this territory is being operated. You know where the safe houses are. You can just leave.
The safe house is always gonna change.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a static safe house.
Right.
Yeah, the safe house will be used a month, and after that month, it's changed. You don't stay in a particular place.
Right.
A lot of these military branches that work in the rural areas, the ones that I'm telling you that kill law enforcement, they don't stay in safe houses. They stay in the mountains, bro.
Wow.
Yeah, they stay.
Did you ever do that?
Yeah.
So you're camping out?
Yeah, I did that after I got out of prison.
Okay, so you were still.
So when I'm talking about these security houses, I was a sicario, a low class sicario, basically. It's different when you're fighting in the city than when you're fighting up in the mountains. The tactics are different. The way that you operate are way different.
Tell us about operating in the mountains.
Operating in the mountains, obviously you have there's bigger groups. There's more equipment. There's more power. Obviously, when you're working for people up in the mountains, you're close to the people that are in charge of the organization. You ain't gonna find Chapo Guzman in
the middle of Culiacan.
In the middle of Culiacan. No, you're not gonna find them there. All these people, they love the mountains.
Yeah.
Mayo Zambada loves mountains.
Right.
They
they live and move around on ranches.
Exactly.
Right.
Just dirt roads, basically dirt roads. They have everything under control. They see who's coming in. Yeah.
Did you ever meet the boss? Did you ever get a chance to, or be on his ranch?
I met a couple of them, but not Mayo Zambada.
Did you ever meet Chapo or
no?
Mr. Leyva, Beltran Leyva or anything?
Beltran Leyva, yeah.
You met him?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's from Cuernavaca. He got killed in Cuernavaca.
Right.
I ended up working with them as well, with his branch of. So Alfredo Beltran Leyva had basically solidified Guerrero, Acapulco, and Morelos, and Mexico City. So he had basically solidified the traffic of lorries or trailers that were going from the south to the borders. They were obviously moving merchandise for the Sinaloa cartel.
Right.
This was before he got betrayed by the Barbie and all their freaking mess. All the mess happened.
So he had built a whole corridor from the south, bringing up drugs into the north. That's important. That's huge.
So he had all the federal agents bought off. Because in Mexico, there's carretera libre, and then you got the autopistas where the federales are patrolling.
Right. The major interstates.
Yeah.
Right.
So he had basically solidified his connection through the interstates.
Did you yourself ever were responsible for paying off federales?
No.
Who does that though? Are there actually people within the military organizations that pay off the government? There's people in
the organization that never pick up a gun.
Okay, so a guy with a gun, even a high up general in the organization, is never given money to a politician or a cop.
So there's people in the organization that work for the organization.
Yeah,
but they don't incriminate. They don't belong to the military, or they don't belong to any type of like how can I say this? Their job is to be that friendly face that can go speak to the politician, that can go lure in police enforcements,
right.
That they're not a threat to them. They can come in and offer deals.
Right.
They're the middlemen. They're basically people that have good they have
good mouthpiece.
They have good communication.
Yeah, and they might even be lawyers.
Exactly.
They might even be accountants.
Most of them are accountants. I was going to say. Most of them are accountants.
Okay, so after you guys get all these towns in the middle of Mexico, Guerrero, wherever it is in the South, Chiapas, wherever, you've got that pipeline. Then the accountants come in and pay off the people at the checkpoints.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. So, and you were part of this. Were you part of this kind of solidification for the Beltran Leyvas?
I was working as a sicario.
Okay. But at this time when he had you on lock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Things were a lot different back then.
Yeah.
Because the Zetas were helping him, were coming in from Chiapas. And I think that's why everything broke down, because Sinaloa didn't want any deals with the Zetas. But Alfredo Beltran was a good friend of the Zetas.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But the other guys didn't want to deal with them at all?
They felt like he was going to associate with them to try to take out his counterparts in Badiraguato.
Chapo and Mayo.
Yeah.
Right. They didn't, because then we saw what the Zetas did. They're
Zetas
insane.
Are brutal. Yeah.
Was torture common among you guys? Like, did you ever have to torture people?
Yeah, a lot of times.
Wow.
You
trying to give up information.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about interrogation and information.
Yeah. It's all about intel.
Yeah.
Wow. That's wild.
Even in prison. When I fell in prison, I was still working for the organization.
Okay.
And in prison, the cartel has the last say in prison, right? A lot of people don't understand that prisons in Mexico are basically a line of information. Let's say you're working for a rival and you get caught with a couple bags of crystal meth, cocaine, marijuana. You go into the jail, to the prison. You might not go into the main yard, but the cartel has so much power that guys inside, like me, would come through those gates. The correctional officers will open those gates, get you inside where that person was with a smartphone, interrogate him, beat the shit out of him, take the information out, and pass the information out to the people that are outside.
Right.
So it was basically the cartel would supply drugs to the prison.
Yeah.
The prison would supply back information and obviously profit of those drugs.
Right.
Prisons in Mexico, they would sell anything between 50 kilos to 100 kilos of marijuana a month.
Wow. Just inside the prison.
Just inside the prison.
Yeah.
It's crazy how how Mexican prisons, like I've never seen an actual documentary of a real Mexican prison. I've seen several of El Hongo up in Baja California. Ain't nothing compared to the South and to the violence that these prisons can create.
Right.
Yeah.
Plus information. You get information about what opposition is operating when they go to jail, and they've got
because you know that
their hooks in the people working in the jail and the inmates in there.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes the correctional officers will try to gain control of the prison and try to control it themselves, and they get murdered outside of the prison. Yeah.
Okay, so how did you take your fall, the murder?
I knew eventually it was gonna catch up to me. I knew that I only had two ways: there's getting killed in the streets or ending up in prison. It went actually pretty well. I can't complain. Prison for me was.
You were in Morelos?
In prison?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Morelos and Estado de Mexico.
Okay, so where did you catch the body?
In Morelos.
In Morelos?
Yeah.
And getting caught, it seems pretty hard to get convicted of murder in Mexico, especially when you're working for an organization. We know this because we were just in Tijuana, and they were like, in Culiacan, it's a statistic.
Yeah.
99% unsolved homicides. So how do you get caught for doing a body when you're part of this massive cartel?
So the government needs to present work.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Stats.
The government needs to present that they have detained someone for whatever is going on. Why? Because obviously the government needs the local government, the state government needs funds from the federal government. But in order to get their funds, they need to present work. So what do? They get a stupid individual that basically he got caught with several stuff, and they'll give him the option, you know what, you help us testify against these certain individuals and we'll let you go. So he's a star witness. He'll testify in 5, 10, 15 cases, people that he never has met, and just basically reads something that is
written statement that's given to him by the prosecutor.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's all in the Mexican judicial system. All that they need to convict you of the murder is a testimony. That's all. No scientific proof, no forensic evidence, nothing but just a testimony.
And one person's testimony will do
it? Testimony.
Wow.
The amount of individuals that are in prison with these testimonies that are star witnesses, we call them, because they have been in every case and they've said the same for every person.
Wow. So you think there's a lot of actually innocent people sitting in Mexican prisons?
Definitely, brother.
Wow.
Definitely.
You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but it has been adjudicated. Were you actually guilty? Did you commit the murder?
You can say I did. I wasn't there, but I gave the order to pick up the individual because he had it was personal, and I wanted to actually be there to take this individual for myself. But this individual, I think he already smelled that something bad was going to happen, and he tried to run for it, and the guys killed him.
Okay.
So
did the trigger man go down too?
The trigger man was the witness.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
How did he become the witness?
Bro, the story is so crazy that you're going to probably think that it's hard to tell, but I'm going to tell it to you. So
The unbelievable in Mexico is to be believed.
I'm working for this different group in Morelos, right? I take these two brothers, I take them in because they're supposedly already experienced gunmen. I take them in, we do some jobs, and they demonstrate that they can handle themselves and that they're doing their job. I get a phone call while we're sitting down in our safe house from their boss and my boss. They're like, "Do you have these two individuals there?" I'm like, "Yeah, why? What's going on?" Cut them up into pieces. No. I don't do that to people that are working with me. I'm not going to do that. How can for me, it was morally incorrect. If you've risk your life to work with me and you've shown me loyalty, and for someone else to call me and give me a stupid reason just to cut you up and use your body as a message for rivals, like, come on. So I basically put in my hands in the fire for them too.
Right.
Save their lives. Explain to them, you know what? They called me right now and they wanted me to kill you guys, but I put my hands in the fire for you guys. They were accusing them of extortioning. I don't know if they did or they didn't, but at the
Not
end,
a great reason.
I ended up saving their lives, right?
Wow.
When we get caught, one of those brothers, he gets convinced by the prosecutors to testify against me. And it was because of him that I'm out. You see? He testified. Yeah, they me vincularon. They attached the body to me, right? Because of him. I saved his life. He ended up saving my life on the long run.
Okay.
Because he was a star witness. In prison, we had a riot, and I got transferred to a state prison far away from Morelos, to a state prison. I got more power. I had an opportunity to get more people running the streets on my behalf. And I prolonged my stay. So normally in Mexico, you get sentenced from 8 to a year and a half. I had already been 3 years in prison and I hadn't been sentenced because of the riots that had happened, the situation that was going on with the change of government.
What year did you go down? What year was that?
It was when
first got arrested.
Andres Manuel López Obrador.
Yeah. Guy that just left the presidency.
Got into power.
It's 2014, maybe?
He was 6 years, right?
Oh, okay. Oh, so this is after the fall of Chapo. This is 2016?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was during that. I had already been there for a while, and when this president won. So in the long run, I got to the point where I had people that were on the streets that they knew where his brother was. So I get someone to get him and to get him on the phone, and I told him, you guys remember what I did for you guys? Now it's time for you guys to repay the favor. Make sure that your brother doesn't show up to the final court
hearing. Court appearance, right? Trial. So you took it to trial.
Yeah.
Okay.
I took, because they offered me, they're like, if you accept your blame, we're gonna give you 13 years.
Right. How many of those would you do? Like, is there any good time? Can you get out early?
Mexico is one you do year
for day, year, we say.
Day for year.
Okay.
So, I spoke to them and they're like, you know what? We owe you one. My brother's not gonna show up. And I remember I was on the phone with him and I was like, look, I'm being nice, bro. You know that I've saved your guys' life, but if he shows up, I'm killing all your family. I was mentally trying to get on his case because they knew that I've always been you could say a good guy. I don't consider myself as an evil person, but if I have to get my hands dirty, I'm going to get them dirty. So I made sure to intimidate him to the point where he's like, you know what? Let me speak to my brother. They got back to me. They're like, no one's going to show up.
So then they dropped the case?
I was acquitted from murder.
Oh, so you weren't actually convicted of murder?
No.
You were just in there sitting.
I was waiting for the sentence.
3 years in a real, and in Mexico, you don't go to the county jail.
No.
They put you in prison with the convicted people. And you're doing a bid like you're already sentenced, which is crazy. And even though technically you're innocent. I was
making more money from the inside of prison than from the outside.
Okay, so tell us about that. This is bananas.
In prison, you got everything. In Mexican prison, you got smartphones, you got women, you got alcohol, you got heroin, you got crystal meth, you got whatever you name it, you got it. Because everything is everything's about money. So
what were you running? How were you getting money?
I was a bodyguard for a crack cocaine cook.
Okay.
So someone that was cooking crack cocaine, I was basically his bodyguard, you can say. I wasn't really his bodyguard. So what happened was that in my old prison, before I got transferred to the state prison, I saw that the cartel wasn't going to help me anymore. Right. So first they put me a lawyer, but this lawyer was just telling me, you know what? I got everything fixed. Don't worry about it. Let's go to the final court hearings. I already got it fixed. And I would look at him and be like, I ain't stupid. You might fool everybody else that you got everything fixed, but unless you got something that's gonna destroy the testimony of the start witness, we ain't getting out.
Right.
Because I was seeing that it was happening to other cartel members that were getting by this guy, by the same lawyer.
Right.
And I reported it. I reported to the person that was above me. You know what? This lawyer is kind of weird. Like, so they didn't listen to me. So I saw that they weren't helping me anymore. Because at the beginning, obviously, they would send you some money just to survive.
Right.
Because in Mexico, they don't give you anything. Mexico just gives you water and food. Your clothes has to be brought by your family.
Yeah.
Your toilet paper to wipe your butt has to be brought by your family. Soap to wash your clothes has to be brought by your family.
So if you have no family, if you're indigent,
bro,
and you got 12 years, you're going to be wearing these for 12 years. Hope those last.
I was washing homeboys' clothes, like homeboys' underwears, homeboys' t-shirts, to get a couple pesos to buy myself some soap, to keep my hygiene up.
Right.
And I was working because I was at the beginning, I was part of the cartel still. So I was getting special treatments from the prison, from the people that were in charge of the prison. I was getting weed and I was able to work weed. But then I started seeing, like everything, there's always treason. The people that were there, they jumped with another rival cartel. And basically, when I took the decision, you know what? I'm not with you. I'm not with them. I'm not with nobody. Just leave me alone. I want to do my time and I want to bounce. Because obviously I knew that once you're sentenced, you're basically, your life is ended. What age are you going to come out at? 50, 60? Like, I'm like, nah, I'd rather stay chill and try to look for a way out.
If you've been convicted of the murder, would you have done more than 13? How much would you have gotten?
If I would have gone to trial, I would have gone from 20 to 30 years.
Yeah. So, and you can't survive that long if you're alone without.
There is a lot of people that survive, but it's all about the connections and if you're a good hustler in prison.
Right.
So
you were protecting this. Do crack cooks need protection in there?
You're talking about a prison that has 12 dormitories. Every dormitory holds like 800 people.
Wow.
You're talking about a big city.
Yeah.
So in the prison that I was in first, I left the cartel and I left everything. All right. I ended up getting into a riot and end up killing someone from the cartel, and we get transferred. But I fought for the people. I didn't fight for no cartel.
Right.
We didn't fight trying to take power and give it to someone else. No.
Right.
We were getting oppressed by the cartel. The cartel that was having the power. It wasn't my cartel anymore because these people had betrayed the cartel that I was working for. Right. The cartel that I was working for had lost power. Yeah. So now these people were acting like the big boys, and they started stepping on people's head.
Who is that cartel?
Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación.
Okay.
And they start obviously oppressing the general population.
Right.
It gets to a point where no matter how big your paro is, your backup is, they ain't gonna stop the people from coming into the cell and killing you.
Were they taxing everybody? Like, what was the nature of that?
They were extortioning.
Yeah.
Let's say you're a white boy, a güero, you come into prison. They'll send their people. They'll record some videos and send them to your family. If we don't get 10,000, 20,000, we're gonna stab them.
Yeah.
They'll have you mentally.
Yeah.
Like
and they mean it.
And they mean it. And obviously I had a good friend in the correctional officers. He was the chief of the correctional officers, and he knew that I didn't have family. He knew that nobody came to see me. So every time he would come in, he would bring me stuff. Like he would bring me a soap. He would give me some shampoo, and he just genuinely liked me. You know, I was a good going fellow. And I remember I saw him all stressed out. I'm like, what's wrong? Like, these man, like they're just putting a lot of heat on the prison. Like I feel like things are gonna happen. This and that. The next morning, he got killed outside his house. The people that killed them, the people that were in charge of the prison, they were laughing the next day, like, oh yeah, my people went and they killed them, this and that. Wow. And they started going after a lot of people. So they ended up beating the shit out of me because they didn't like me. I don't know why. Yeah. They didn't like me. And I ended up routing up, like, starting the fire.
Wow.
In the prison, I started talking to the people. Are you with me or are you with them? Like, we're gonna fight it out. We're gonna get these people out.
So you kicked the riot off, basically.
Yeah.
Do you remember the day, how it happened, the moment it happened?
Yeah, definitely, bro. And I busted a knuckle. So I have friends that don't belong to the cartel. They're good citizens of Mexico and they really have love for me. And they visit me that day and they took me a pair of pants and some Chinese food. Bro, I was so like, I wanted that Chinese food so bad. And while I was talking to them about the situation that was going on in prison, because it was tense, like the atmosphere was tense, these people come down and they take pictures of my friends. And they come up to us and they tell them, because you guys came to visit him, when you guys go outside, they're going to be waiting for you guys and you guys are going to get killed.
Wow.
Bro, you're talking about
Civilians.
some civilians that don't know anything. They were like literally shaking. I go up to the chief of the COs and I tell him like, hey, you know, the number one rule in prison is respect visitors. You don't f around with the visit. You don't f around with the family. You can deal with whoever you need to deal with after the visit's gone, but while the visit's there, it's the golden rule. You don't visit them. You don't threaten them. They're not involved in what's going on in the politics in the prison. But they broke that rule by taking pictures of these people. Right. So the guy's like, nah, what do you want me to do? This and that. I'm like, all right, if something happens to them, I'm killing you, because I also got people that are ready to kill. So I threatened the chief of police, but I was already like, my head was already boiling. Yeah. And I remember they passed through my cell and they're like, the tabla. They're like, yeah, we're gonna see you after everybody leaves. You're gonna get the tabla. And I was like, hell no, you ain't gonna tabla me. And I was like, all right. And I had some homies with me and I'm like, are you ready? He's like, yeah, I'm ready. And I just signaled to some people that I had already spoken, because we had already organized it. We were just waiting for the moment. Or like, let's go. Once the last visit leaves, we're gonna pop open the cells and we're gonna go straight to these people. Wow. 2 people ended up dying.
Were you guys strapped? You had your shanks?
It was a small prison. Yeah. It was only like wooden how can you like?
They're like little sticks.
Yeah, like wooden pieces of sticks that
almost like baseball bats, like
exactly,
mini bats. Okay.
And your hands.
Holy.
And the people died because of that. And I got transferred to a state prison.
So you killed somebody in that?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I got sent to the state prison,
were you charged with that murder?
No.
Okay.
The cameras weren't working.
That's Mexico.
That's Mexico, brother. When I got sent to the state prison, the one that I'm telling you that was huge, in my head I was like the cartel's not gonna let this slide. Like they're gonna come, they're gonna send their people and get me, because I knew that the cartel had people there in that prison. And I was scared because I was like I don't have nobody knew me. I didn't have anybody that knew me like that. So some 18 streeters from LA, when they take me to the hospital in that prison, they're like, who's Smiley? And I'm like, oh man, here they come for me. And I turn around and I see an 18 streeter and a Florencia. Wow. And they're like, what's up? What's your name? I'm like, Smiley. And I was already like getting ready to fight. I'm like, man, I was gonna get down. He's like, here. And he pulls out a big old ball of weed and 1,000 pesos. He's like, here. He's like, we heard what you did down there. You stick with the raza, you stick with the people. Whoa. I was like, órale, carnal. Simón.
Was that pretty dope to like see an American, like to like speak English to there must have been that kinship, right? Yeah. Like we're both.
There's that clecha, the
camaraderie, the solidarity
between Chicanos, Chicanos that speak English and they try to help, especially because a lot of Chicanos in prison, they're looked down upon by the cartel.
Right.
So
they're looked on almost as like güeros. Yeah. Almost as gringos, right?
They looked at them but I fit in both worlds because I was part of this world and part of this world.
Right.
But in my time there, I earned my respects because of what I had done over there in the other prison. And one of the cooks, he was from Guerrero. So when he heard about me, he came to visit me, and I was sleeping in a cell with 27 people, bro. I tied myself up to the bars of the prison to sleep because everybody was standing up. That's how tight it was. They had us like, bro, there was someone sleeping on the toilet, like riding it, like just on top of the toilet.
This is the state prison?
This is state prison. It was disgusting, brother. And I remember I was tying myself and I was trying to like put myself comfortable to sleep when I see this brown Mexican guy with have you seen Machete? You know that tattoo that he has right here? Same tattoo, but a different like
Danny Trejo.
Like a Danny Trejo type of guy. And he's like, who's Smiley? I'm like, man, why do they come? Why do they keep looking for me? I'm like, I'm Smiley, what's up? He's like, where you from? I'm from Guerrero. I'm from Guerrero too. He's like, wow. Get your stuff. I'm like, what do you mean get my stuff? And the homeboy's he's one of those type of men that likes to pluck his eyebrows, keep them clean. What do you call him? No, he's not. Like a metrosexual.
Right.
He calls me over. He's like, come to my cell. He was living by himself, had a TV, a plasma TV, had everything. And I'm like, hey, I just want to let you know I ain't gay, homie. If you try to do something, we're going to get down. Because obviously I saw that he was kind of like that. He's like, nah, he's like, I'm a cook. Yeah, from now on, you're gonna roll with me. All right. And I became good friends with him. But then after that, I got sent to maximum security. And in maximum security was, I think, the worst scenario that I saw in a prison, right? 14 people died.
Hold on, which maximum? Which prison?
In state prison.
Oh, so
it has its own maximum security.
I see.
Right?
I see.
This was known as the castle because the main bosses of Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación were located in this castle that no one went in, no one came out. It was
really?
Just, they were managing everything from there.
Wow.
But I can't take credit for what I haven't done. I had only been there 2 weeks and popped off.
Wow. So you go into this castle. Everybody knows what you did down at the local prison.
Yeah.
Like you beat one of these guys to death, started a riot, and stood up to them.
Yeah.
Disrespect, right? So obviously you must have been worried.
I was worried, but at the same time, I was like, well, whatever's going to come is going to come. I get sent to maximum security. The people that were in charge come and they start talking to me. They're like, so what happened? Explain to us what happened. And I'm like, I ain't no snitch, but these guys were like around with the general people that don't even have anything to do with their business. They were beating up, extortioning, and just like being
being jerks,
bro. It's like if you have the power, if you get the
being meanie weenies,
if you get the charola.
Charola, what is
a charola? Is basically like when you get the power to control. It's not to step on people,
right? Because
people are gonna get tired of you stepping and they're gonna rise up. It's to help people,
of course.
So when I explain this to them, they're like, "All right, it's good," and they didn't do anything to me. They just let me be. They're like, no, they just completely ignored me.
Right. So then why did you jump off?
They had done the same thing. They had already tired out the people in maximum security to the point. It was my second week there, and I was going to court when I hear out of nowhere just start hearing noises and people running. And my cellmate threw me an actual shank, and he's like, "Come on, let's go." I'm like, "What the f- going on?" He's like, "After the people that are in charge. After the people that are in charge." As soon as I go down to the first floor, there's an individual that we used to call numbers, because he was all tatted from his face, all tatted from his hand. He had his neck open and his insides were out, and he was just laying on the steps, dead, bro, dead. We get to the other section of maximum security. The main boss he locked himself in his cell, and he had a big old machete like this, and he locked himself with the lock. His people were also like trying to fight off the general population that was trying to get him. And I remember when I got there, I was like, I didn't know what was going on, you know. All I knew that I was with my cellmate, and I was following him. Had you ever stabbed anybody before? You know, that's a different brother. When you're in the cartel, you cut off hands, you cut off heads. Okay. So I had to ask because stabbing somebody is a different thing than and a much more personal thing than shooting them with this high tech weapon. Yeah. But okay, so you had some experience with the knife. Okay. While all these people were arguing and going at it, they tell the people of this individual, put your weapons down. We're gonna let you guys go. We just want him. Their biggest mistake was putting their weapons down, because as soon as the last one stepped down to the first floor, like dogs, bro, everybody just went on top of them. They had their faces smashed in. People go bro, there was rivers of blood. That's how much people were murdered that day. Massacred them, bro. I'm telling you, 14. I'll show you the pictures. I got them on my phone so you can see. So you don't think I'm bluffing. All CJNG, all Nuevo Jalisco guys. We get to the main boss. So he had a problem with my cellie. My cellie had been slapped and humiliated a few months prior, but he had it with this boss, and he comes to him and he tells him, It's like, now's the time to act like if you're the man. Remember when you slapped me? And the guy, I was hearing him say, just watch when the blacks come, the negros, the custodians. Watch when they come. They're gonna put you guys back in your cell, and we're gonna get you guys this and that. My cellie tells me, go get the he had a alcohol, pure alcohol, in the cell. He's like, go get my alcohol and bring the bed sheets. I go running back, bring him the bed sheets, and he starts putting them on a stick, and he starts lighting them up, and he starts pushing them into this guy's cell. He basically makes him what's it called? He makes him breathe all the smoke, passes out. He breaks the lock, pulls him out, and he starts going at his head. He chops it off, and he's like, "Come on, Smiley, let's go play basketball." And we go to the basketball court, and he throws the head towards the loop and just go clock, clock, clock. Like, bro, you had the helicopters on top throwing
tear gas.
Did
he make the shot?
What? No, he didn't make that. That head was heavy. I tried picking it up, and I was like, "Nah, I ain't playing with this."
Nah, Mexicans just can't play ball, dude. You guys are soccer people.
Yeah. In the other prison, I had got my ass whooped by the government once the riot was over. Right?
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, if over there we killed 2 people and the government kicked our ass, there's 14 people dead here. They're gonna massacre us. My friend tells me, you don't know where you're at. You're in maximum security, and maximum security is respected. I'm like, all right. You start hearing boots. The anti-riots come, and they start knocking on the door. In maximum security, and they're like, everybody back to your cells and calm this down. The guy that organized the whole riot, he's like, nope, ain't no one going back to your cells. And if you guys come in, we're ready to die. Bro, there was an 80-year-old man with his cane and his shank like this. I was like,
wow,
where am I? Like, for me, it was a dream because they had piled up everybody that they had killed in the main entrance. I'll show you the pictures so that you can show the audience what I'm talking about. They piled up the bodies, and they're like, we just want you to take your trash. Nobody has a problem here. In my head, I was like, yeah, like the government's going to listen to us. Bro, God is my witness. They sent the forensics to pick up the bodies, and they left us alone. Nobody got beat up. Nobody got hit. Nothing happened, brother.
Just go back to your program.
Everything was back to normal. We did get left 3 days without any without any security. Like the cell doors were open because the CEOs were protesting outside that they weren't getting paid enough to go through this crazy.
And they're right.
I'll show you the pictures that I have pictures of the actual event, and you're gonna see the CEOs on their faces with all the inmates on top of them with shanks, and like they have them submitted, bro.
Wow.
They had them kidnapped in other areas.
God damn. What is this? Must have made the news, right?
Yeah, definitely.
What's the name of that prison?
It's called Atlacholwaya.
That's a tough one, but if you could spell it, Google it so you know he's not lying.
Yeah.
I know you're not.
No, I'll show you the pictures. You guys you can show them.
So you guys basically took out the guys that were making the problem too. Yeah. So they probably realized that as well. To
obviously,
an extent.
they make a blind eye, and they say that is just, they don't want the heat. They don't want the press coming and asking questions. Why did this get bigger? Obviously, because you guys are giving them power to manage everything, and that's why it happened. But it went back to normal, and the people that organized saw that I was running around with the bed sheets. No, with the bed sheets when the guy told me. Yeah. And I was I was putting in work for like, didn't even know what was going on, but I was putting in work. So when they see me, they're like, where are you from? I'm like, no, I'm from this part of Mexico. You got people? I'm like, yeah, I got people. It's like, all right, we'll be in connect. We want to work with you.
Because they knew you were getting out, right?
Yeah. So they knew that I was coming up to my time where I was going to have my final court hearings, and
let's just let this sink in. This man has not yet been to court. Like, he hasn't been adjudicated yet.
Nope.
You're technically innocent. You're not guilty, and you've just been through like the craziest prison riot in a long time in Mexico. God, I'm so glad America got colonized by the British, not the Spanish, bro. Anyways.
There was 2 riots.
God, I love America.
In that maximum security. The first one was 14 dead. The second riot was around 6 or 7 people, but I did not.
You'd already been out by then.
No, I was there, but I didn't take part.
Okay. So how long after this riot? Another 6 months, and then the state dropped the case, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, what year are we? How old are you?
27.
Okay.
26.
So you're a grown ass man now. You're free from the cartel. Sinaloa, you guys went your separate ways, obviously. Because if they can barely afford to pay you when you're on the streets, if you're in prison for a long time, they forget about you.
They forget about you, yeah.
Okay, you're on a totally opposite end of Mexico. Where do you go from there?
I had people obviously working on the streets, and I had the connections to get the supply of drugs. I wasn't selling them, but other people were using my name. Like close friends of mine were using my name to get the product, and they were doing their business.
So your name carried weight like that? Yeah.
So I would get merchandise, like good merchandise from Cartel. Mm-hmm. They would loan it to us, and we would sell it, distribute it.
Where are you? Where were you doing this?
In the south of Mexico. But by this time, I've earned a lot of enemies being in prison. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know what to do, I was thinking, we get offered by different individuals that, come work for us. We got the power. We got this. But nobody had the power. They had material. Yeah, they had marijuana. They had cocaine. They had meth. But they didn't have power, like power, They didn't have that brutal force of providing you with 20, 30 people with rifles and equipment and go fight the war. They weren't no longer there. So I spoke to my friends and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to this last meeting. And if I don't get any backup, we're going to have to leave because the South is getting hot. Mm-hmm. I end up going and meeting an important person for a cartel that's called La Familia Michoacana.
Right.
Yeah. And I work for them for 2 years.
Okay. So La Familia Michoacana, they're kind of interesting because they've been able to resist incursions from the big cartels. The CJNG can't take them over.
They work for the Cartel Sinaloa.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Can you say that for the camera?
Yeah, they work in conjunction with the CDS.
Really?
Yeah.
So they're like an associate of
exactly. They're not the same cartel, but they're associates.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do they gain out of that?
They get support from CDS.
Like manpower?
Yeah, they get manpower, and CDS gets what do you call? How do you say this? Gets logistics from them. Like they will be able to put. So before they were where they would produce cocaine was in Colombia, right. in the jungle.
Right.
They're not doing that anymore. They're doing it in the mountains of Mexico, and most of these mountains are in Michoacán, Guerrero, in the Sierra Madre of the south of Mexico. So
and they're producing cocaine there.
Yeah, and it's pretty good cocaine.
I never knew this. They're producing cocaine in Mexico.
Yeah.
We have not heard a peep about this on the news. How long has this been going on? Is this recent?
No, it's like 5 years ago, 6 years, like 5-6 years ago.
So where do they get the coca, the leaf from, the ala?
They still get the coca leaf, but they're producing it, like they're making the final product in Mexican mountains.
Right. So do they get the base from South America already in kilos? I assume, right?
I'm not sure because I don't know. I only know that's been happening.
Wow. So they're allied with it. So they're getting a lot of their product from the Familia Michoacana that's refining it in the mountains, the Sierra Madres. Wow. Interesting. So you were recruited by them. You went with them.
Yeah.
This is around the pandemic time, right?
Yep.
What was it like to work for a cartel during the pandemic?
We had to stop at the checkpoint where they would put the hand sanitizer and they would check you for the.
Yeah.
We were grown men with military equipment would get off and go but because the people know you,
Yeah.
In order for your cartel to survive, people have to love you.
Yeah.
You can't intimidate people.
Right.
because the same people will call the government on you, will snitch on you.
Right.
But when you help the people,
Mm-hmm.
the people defend you, the people protect you, the people keep you hidden.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was all right. It was.
So how were you guys making money? Like, what was, because we heard all these stories that like the cartel was like setting up their own quarantines and
extortion, mostly extortion and kidnapping.
Who are you kidnapping that's valuable? Who has money in Mexico to pay you that doesn't live in Mexico City?
People that are like, that have big businesses. Mm-hmm.
Avocado farms.
No, that's Michoacán.
Okay. Oh, so when you're working for Michoacán, where are you operating? What?
La Familia Michoacana operates in Estado de Mexico, Michoacán, Tierra Caliente, that's part of Guerrero, and Morelos.
Okay.
They operate in the mountainous region of those 4 states.
Okay. So you're in that's where you're at the time. Yeah. You're straight up in the mountains.
Yeah.
So
I become a lugarteniente for them. So
now you're a general manager. Yeah. You're looking after plazas.
Yeah. And I'm fighting plazas for them against Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are some of those? Tell us about how it is being, now you're like almost made it, you know? How much are they paying you, first of all, to be a general manager?
You get a good amount of extortion money and kidnapping money. So the kidnapping money that they get is sent to the boss. Like, let's say you're the general manager, your people did the kidnapping, you get a certain percentage of that. So like, let's say you got 10 million pesos, you're going to get 2 million. And you use that money to invest in your group, in your people, in your logistics, in your communications. Because obviously you have to have communications in order to manage big areas of the states.
So you're really responsible for like the budget. You're doing a lot of like really high level kind of management
for the area that I was fighting. Yeah.
How many were you involved in the kidnappings, or was it just?
It was in me.
Okay, because you're way too high up now.
You're just giving. You give permissions basically. You give permission to, like, people would come up and they would tell you, "Hey, I got this person that you guys might be able to get money from him. He has this. I'll set him up, and you just give me a cut of what I want a piece of what you guys can get out of him."
Wow. And you say, "Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
adelante."
Yeah.
Wow. Give us an example of a guy you just, like who's getting kidnapped. Are they all civilians, or do you also kidnap like opposition, or are those dudes just getting killed?
Politicians that have robbed, politicians that have been in power and now they're enjoying what they've robbed from the people.
Right.
Those were the number one targets.
You must have loved that.
Yeah, of course.
When you say robbed, how do they rob the people?
They'll present a project that they build a stadium, and they
and their brother owns the construction company, and their cousin owns the equipment,
and you basically see just a fence, some grass, and they say that they wasted
and all that taxpayer money just
you know how
I go to Spain with my family. That guy. So how would you hit him? You just obviously get intelligence on him. Know where he's going to be. Would you ever have to kill bodyguards?
Yeah. We've got into several. We had to get into several gunfights with bodyguards of these individuals.
But you usually got them, right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
So then you take a video of them. Do you have to slap them around?
You go after their family members.
Oh, you get their family members. Of course.
Yeah. Why do you want the big fish if he's not gonna? He's
the decision maker.
Why would you want him?
Would you guys take kids?
No.
You never take kids. You take women?
No, I never took women. But they obviously they do take women.
They're annoying.
Mostly you would go after men.
Yeah.
Men.
I got your brother.
Sons.
Yeah.
Most of them were these politicians are old.
Right.
They're grown men that have been in politician for most of their lives.
Right.
They have grown children that are probably studying in a different state, and you know that you can get him because he thinks that he's safe in another state, and you go pick him up from there and you bring him back.
Wow. And you rough him up a little bit, slap him around.
Not really. Like, you don't, like, obviously
you don't really need to.
You don't really need to, because once they see the guns and they see that they're getting tied up, that's all you need.
Yeah. Did anybody ever refuse to give up the money and then you had to leave there?
Yeah. So there was this individual that he had worked in politics, but he had also worked for a rival cartel. he became a rancher. He would have bulls for game. Have you ever been to a jaripeo? Bull riding in Mexico?
I haven't, no.
So there's a lot of money in bull riding.
Sure.
So he had a lot of cattle. He had ranches and this and that. And we took him. We actually had to take him because his wife was the one that was managing all his money. We took him, but his wife didn't want to pay, and he ended up getting a bullet in his head. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so that was mostly because I imagine a lot of the drug trafficking slowed up during the pandemic. So we gotta start earning this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of car theft. There's a lot of business. There's a lot of market for 4x4s to sell to the cartel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's another thing like guns that people make money on with the cartels.
They love 4x4s.
Sure.
Yeah, because obviously they're in the mountains and they need good vehicles to manage.
18 cars a day in Tijuana get stolen. That's probably a low number.
And all those go down to Culiacan.
Right. So they're driving around stolen whips.
Yeah.
All those whips that look brand new.
They're all stolen. None of those, like it's basically you ain't gonna find a person that's involved in that game with a clean sheeted car.
Right.
Why? Because you're not gonna let the government know what's your name.
Yeah.
You own this vehicle.
Right. You can't have your name on anything.
No, so you need to have cars that are ready to just drop.
Right. And if you were working as a general manager, are you also allowed to have a side business where you steal cars and sell it to your bosses? Cool. So all right. I think I see kind of how, so it's actually when you're at that level in the military wing, it's better. You make more money having all these side hustles than you do on like a little salary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in this time, did you get married? Did you have kids?
Yeah. I had kids when I was younger, when I was 18, but I was never there for them because obviously the life that I chose. So I ended up not being in their life.
Did you send them money ever?
Yeah. I would give them money, but I wouldn't never visit them because I'm not gonna risk anybody trying to use that as leverage against me.
Right.
So I didn't have any family. Even though I was in a high position, I didn't have any peace. I didn't have any, like, what was the point of making money or having money if you can't waste it? If you can't go out to the city and have a girlfriend because later your enemies are going to go after your girlfriend.
It's too hot. Do you think people were trying to set up on you?
Yeah.
Do you think there was intelligence on you?
Definitely. I think that was one of the major reasons why I decided to just back away. Because I saw that there was a lot of envy towards me and I saw that they were trying to set me up to kill me. Other lieutenants that wanted to take what I had achieved.
They were part of Michoacan?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because so when I jumped in, there was lieutenants that had that area that I was supposed that I basically achieved for them. That they had been there for 2 years, but they weren't basically working the area. They were just basically just staying in their safe zones. So when I came in with everything, and I would go into those danger zones, and I would stay there for weeks and put in work, and then come back and show proof that I was working, and show to los hermanos Las Cuaga, if you know the two main leaders of the Familia Michoacana.
Who are they?
Es el fresa, el pez,
the strawberry.
Yeah, strawberry, and the fish.
Okay.
Same.
So, and they're the boss. Those are the misters. Those are the bosses.
Two bosses. Those are two bosses.
Are they still around?
Yeah, they're actually they've been. The U.S. has rewards on them, and
they're still around.
Yeah, they're down in the south.
Wow. So you had communication.
I met them in person. And
wow.
everything.
Was that something? Were you like, holy shit? I mean, because listen, you had now been in Mexico for over a decade. You had started off as this dispensable, just brown triggerman, and now you're meeting the bosses. Like, not everybody gets to meet the boss. Was part of you a little, at least, proud of that you had survived?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I remember when I met the brothers, they were telling me their story. Like, oh, you see these mountains? Like, it's like we started there. Like, that's the same way as you. Like, we used to hide up in the mountains, and we used to. They would working for La Familia Michoacana is basically a branch of Los Caballeros Templarios back in the avocado and the wars, the autodefensas when they started growing. So all that comes from there. They were basically triggermen for the people that were in charge in those times, and now they're the ones in charge of their own organization.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And they had a good. They had I was like they looked at me with like respect and admiration, because they're like, you have no family, you have nothing, and you're making a mess. Like you're putting in work, and you're using your intelligence. He's like, we send people to these areas. They're like, they don't last 2 months, 3 months. They get caught or they get killed.
Yeah.
So you've but coming up and down, but I knew the area like the palm of my hand, and I knew where to hit, where not to hit, where to come out, where to come in. So they like that, you know. Yeah. They really
they respect the huevos and la mente, la cabeza, you know?
But other lieutenants were kind of like, they didn't like that. I was bringing more people into the organization from where I was originally from. So the organization, like let's say the groups half were from Michoacán, the other half were from Guerrero, but now they were from a new state where I was coming in, where I was bringing people from, and
which
I was
where Morelos or something,
where I was recruiting people, and obviously it was more of us than them, and obviously they didn't like it, because obviously the boss would start asking questions like, why is it that he's putting in work and you guys don't show any, like, you guys don't show any advance? Like, I'm only hearing about that you guys are doing this or doing that, but you guys aren't really doing anything.
Yeah, that's typical. So, you're making them look bad.
Exactly.
So they might have killed you or plotted on you.
Yeah, no, they were definitely trying to plot something against me.
So is it possible, given that these brothers came up from where you did, is it possible that if you had survived and kept putting in work, and you could have been a boss someday?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. Imagine that. That is a movie. An American, a Chicano becoming a boss of a Mexican cartel.
There's actually,
who?
La Barbie was a boss.
Sure. He wasn't the boss, but he had a plaza for sure. Yeah. He was a ruthless dude.
Pretty sure he was working for the gringos.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Did were the bosses, the brothers, were they also informants like most cartel bosses?
No, I don't think so. They were just bandits.
Right.
They're straight out bandits.
It seems like those are the hardest guys to get to. Those guys that live in the mountains of Michoacán and Guerrero. Those are who really stay free, because the government can't penetrate. It's just, how are you supposed to pass through all these checkpoints of people that know the area, that have grown up there?
They have people on top of mountains with binoculars and radioing in when the government is coming. So your group just moves and goes around them while the military is thinking that they're chasing you, but you're already 2 steps ahead of them.
You should give us pictures like that area, just thousands of miles, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Just these like almost uninhabited mountains.
Yeah.
And they're making coke up there. Like, that is crazy. Are they into anything else? Do they have meth labs?
No, they don't have meth.
They don't fuck with meth.
They don't fuck with meth. Because back in the day, I heard that back in the day when they were messing with meth, one of their lieutenants got addicted and he killed all his people in his ranch. He killed them all because of
he was just tweaking.
He got tweaked out and he murdered them everywhere.
And so they just said no.
Yeah, we're not going to go for meth.
And not fentanyl either.
No.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, they're more bandits, like I said.
Extortion, kidnapping, avocado, extortion, and coke.
And coke.
For the Sinaloans.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Okay, so it's 2021, 22. You see kind of the writings on the wall. And it sounds like you're getting tired. You're tired of this life a little bit, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You're tired of fighting. You've been at war for... you can only describe your life, the life of a sicario in a cartel, as a constant state of war.
Yeah.
You never get to relax.
You don't.
So how do you leave it all?
I start questioning myself, I start questioning myself regards of death, because you're no longer afraid of dying. You're always dealing with death.
You've taken life
every day
so much.
And it's like, you're going to die, but what is there to come after death? I was trying to my head was trying to put those pieces like, okay, you're ready to die. And I had encountered several times. I got ambushed by the Mexican government, the estatales. They ambushed me and we got into a crazy gunfight. I almost got killed. I made it out because of the people that I was with. And that just put into perspective, yeah, you're gonna go any day. Now, is it what you're doing worth leaving this world? I started questioning everything that I was doing. At the end of the day, you got to understand that these cartels are a cancer for society, especially for society in Mexico, for the youth in Mexico. Why? Because they look up to you. They admire pistoleros. They admire narcotraficantes, you know. And it got to me when I went to where I originally would stay, and a close friend of mine, a youngster that I knew before he could even walk, and now he was 10, 11-year-old. He saw me and he's like, I want to be like you when I grow up. And I looked at him and I'm like, no, you don't. What are you talking about, brother? You need to go back to school. Like, you have your whole life in front of you. You have your parents with you. Why would you pick up a rifle and destroy your life? Because at the end of the day, my life was done. Like, I had nowhere else to go. All I knew was to kill people, to be in that game. So that's why even after I ended up coming out of prison, I didn't leave. I didn't try to make my life, again, I went back into the same environment because that's all I knew. So that basically put me into that situation where, are you going to die like a dog and die for something that has no honor? Because it has no honor, brother. At the end of the day, you're fighting for the rights to steal, to extortion, to kidnap, and to poison your own society.
Right.
And I said to myself, I'm smarter than this. I speak English. I speak Spanish. Like, I understand a little bit more than most of these people.
Right.
Like, I've survived most of these people. I'm not gonna die here as a coward, because at the end of the day, I think I have respect for those people that get up every day in the morning and they go to work to put that piece of bread on their family's table. Those are the real gangsters. For me, like, I look at them and I'm like, yeah, like, this guy chose to work hard to provide for his family. We chose a non-ethical, easy way to make money. Obviously, it's not easy, but it's not right at the same time, because you're not being beneficial for anyone, So at that stage of my life, I had the option of killing the lieutenant that was trying to kill me, and at the same time killing people that almost gave their life for me, defending me, or do I just run? And I chose to run instead of murdering people that had defended me, that had fought for me.
You didn't let anyone know you were leaving?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I called some of my close friends and two people that were from the boss's area. So these two people were put in by the bosses to supervise everything. So basically, they were just there to collect information and pass it on. Yeah. Because the boss wasn't happy with what the other lieutenant was doing and the problems that we were having with each other. Yeah. So I called them up and I told them, you know what? Like, I'm done. And they're like, what do you mean you're done? I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. Like, I'm done. I'm like, you guys can tie me up and take me back to the boss, and I'll tell him personally, I don't want this life anymore. These people had so much love for me that they're like, nah, you're good, man. You're good. Just make sure that if you're done, you're done. We'll let the boss know what's going on. Because I had already gathered intel about what was really going on with this lieutenant and with other rivals. So he was basically trying to make a deal for both of them to end my life, basically, and end the people that I have around me. So he was trying to make a truce with them to get me. So they had already seen everything, and they're like, it's good, you can go. Just make sure that if you go, you're done. Yeah, don't come back. I did.
So where's the first place you went? Where'd you go?
Chicali, Mexicali.
Okay, so you went back to the border.
Back to the border.
What was your thinking? What were you planning on doing?
Just trying to survive, I think. It's hard to reintegrate to society, especially when you come from a world where a disrespect is handled right there and then with a 9mm. You know, everything's about respect in my environment, in the environment that I would live. And trying to reintegrate into society where respect is no longer a thing among people, among a lot of people. You know, it's easy for them to disrespect, not knowing that they have a person that, for disrespect, will take your life without blinking. And I fell into depression, living by myself in Mexicali, and trying to make peace with myself for leaving the people that I cared for. Because even though these guys were killers and they were, you could say what you want for them, but my loyalty was with them, and I knew that their loyalty was with me. I respect anybody that wants that would get into a car knowing that they might not come back.
Right.
You know? So
it doesn't make them inherently bad people. This is just where they come from, and it's part of life. Yeah. So I understand that you're lonely, you're isolated.
And
did you get a job, or why did you not return to the United States?
I was working as a bricklayer. Driving a bicycle, and in my head it was like, bro, you used to drive these badass cars with weapons on your side, money in your pocket, women in the back, drugs in the front. What are you doing driving a bicycle and going to bricklay? Wow. I would struggle with myself because architects or the people that were in charge of the construction site would come, and they would try to like humiliate me. Not like inside of me, I was like I could kill you. Yeah, like I was like, man, like you better not test me. You don't even know, bro. Like it was hard and it was difficult it got to the point where I fell in depression. I literally fell in depression.
Why didn't you come back to the United States?
I had lost connection with my family. Like we no longer had, like I ended up growing by myself and we separated. So we no longer had that confidence of asking them, oh, I want to go back to the US. I didn't have anybody. I chose the life I chose and I ended up by myself. So yeah, it's...
so how'd you end up in London, England?
That's a crazy story, brother.
You're the only Mexican in England. That's the name of this episode.
In my depression, I was looking for a way out because I had already gone to Christian churches, to Catholic churches, to Jehovah's Witness, trying to find something that would give me peace. Because I knew I had done a lot of evil and a lot of bad in this world. And in one of these days, it was the 25th of December. In Mexico, you know, Mexico is very Christian, and they celebrate Christmas like I think no other place.
They don't even move Coke over the holidays. Throughout Latin America, it's a fact. They take it off.
You see, so me being by myself and seeing how everybody was in their families, it just got to me, and I was thinking to myself, like, why don't you just end your life? Like, you have not done any good for no one. You've not done anything that's beneficial for anyone. Take your life. In prison, in state prison, I saw a lot of homeboys that were there for kidnapping, and they had 140 years of prison, and they were never going to come out. And when they wanted to die, bro, they would tie themselves out from this height, and they would sit their butts and
break their necks.
Imagine how much you wanted death to kill yourself from that height. You know? So I knew that if I wanted to die, I was going to be able to do it. So I started making my rope. I had some lasso in the apartment where I was living. And in my head, I was like, man, I'm tired of this life. Like, I'm tired. I'm tired. And I was looking where to hang myself. But at the same time, there was a voice in me that said, you've never been a coward, bro. You've never backed out of anything. Like, look how far you've come to die like a drug addict. Cause I got hooked on meth, bro. I got hooked on meth in my depression. When before in the cartels, I had never touched meth. Yeah. You know? And I remember I would make fun of people that would use meth. And now I was the meth user. I was the one in depression. I was the one trying to take my life. And in this scenario, I remember I had touched rock bottom, bro. I had nothing else going for me at that moment. I had nothing else. Like when I mean nothing, brother. My only thoughts were go back to what you were and get killed back where you are. But in my head, I had those voices that were telling me, you've never been a coward. You've always stood up and dealt with things the way that you need to deal with things. So I said to myself, I'm not going to hang myself today. And I sat down on my bed. And as a grown man and with my balls in my hands, bro, I started crying. I started crying because I was tired of my life. I was tired of feeling all that trauma that was boiling up inside of me from my childhood to what I've seen, to the people that I've lost in my life that were good friends, that showed me loyalty and ended up dying because of me.
Right.
And
you let out 20 years of tears.
Bro,
wow.
It was...
That's so good for you.
It was difficult because...
It's healthy though.
At the moment, I remember I asked if there's something that is truth, that has truth, guide me to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to myself, thinking that if there's anything higher, if there's a higher being that's listening to me, I'm not going to name it. I'm not going to say Jesus, Jehovah. I'm not going to say anything. I didn't even say God. Right? I just say, if you're out there and you're looking at me and you see my position, I can't no more. Guide me to something that is truthful. And God guided me to Islam.
Wow.
And in a matter of 3 years, brother, my life just flipped.
Yeah, you look great.
I have a new life. I have a beautiful wife.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to do better in my life and trying to influence ex-cartel members and cartel members that are back in Mexico that still have respect for me, that I still talk to on the phone. I still talk to people that are in prison and try to share my testimony with them to reconcile with what they've decided to become at the end, you know?
How did you end up over here in England? I'm just curious.
My wife is from here.
How'd you meet her?
Through a podcast that I shared my story at my reverse story, how I became a Muslim. And she saw it and she hit me up. She's like, where you at? This and that. She ended up going to Mexico and living with me in Mexico for 3 years, brother.
Wow.
They tried kidnapping her, by the way.
Oh my God.
In Mexicali.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is she Muslim?
Yeah, she's Muslim.
Okay. So that was the introduction to it.
Yeah.
And so you guys you'd be back here how long?
I've been back here like 7 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would you mind hanging out for the bonus episode? Just a quick 30-minute chat for the Patreon. We could show the severed heads and talk more about like Islam.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated. We've just been going, so I think we got to cut it off. But I love you, man. That was one of the best pieces of podcasting I've ever been a part of. You're kind of a natural at it. Yeah, you don't have a book or anything you want to shout out?
No, not at the moment, no.
Well, God, that's something. Ali Gonzalez. You don't go by Smiley no more, I guess, huh?
Nah.
Wow.
Smiley was left in Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Do you miss home? Do you miss America or Mexico? That's kind of more of your home now.
Like I was telling your producer, I miss Big Bear. I miss going out fishing for some trout. I miss some stuff from the U.S., you know? I still have good memories from the U.S. Obviously, Mexico, it's a bittersweet, you know, memories. But it's in reality, I know that my life is here now. And at the end of the day, what's left behind is left behind.
All right, man. Well, we really, really appreciate you coming by.
No,
Seriously.
Thank you for inviting me to this podcast.
Did you enjoy it?
Of course I did. Yeah.
Great. I hope it helps you. I think it's good to talk some of this out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It helps.
Definitely.
So, Ali Gonzalez, truly one of a kind story. And jump over to the Patreon, patreon.com/TheConnect Show. We'll just wrap it up and chat a little bit more. Thank you, G. I appreciate it.
Sounds good.